Okay. So, here we are. Are you guys ready to go over this epic, massive balance patch, which is just game-changing, guys? It is absolutely game-changing here in Guild Wars 2. Madness, my friends. Absolute madness here in Guild Wars 2 with a huge, impactful balance patch. Oh, wait, yeah, maybe not so much. But let's get into that. So, first of all, we've got a few minor changes to some runes here. Rune of the Weaver. This rune set no longer grants barrier when using elite finishers, but instead grants barrier upon using a stance skill, right? So these two changes here, right, and I'm just going to read Rune of the Mirage real quick so we can explain why this is happening, right? This rune set no longer grants 3 seconds of super speed when using elite finisher, but instead grants 5 seconds of super speed when using an elite skill with an internal cooldown of 10 seconds. Right off the bat, guys, look, I don't want to be too much of a Debbie Downer here, but I do not like this, okay? I think having interactions on runes and even sigils with combo finishers is actually a really fun interaction. And I think we should see more of that rather than less. And, quite disturbingly to me, you are going to see a bit of a pattern here, guys. Through this entire patch, quite a lot of combo field interactions do get removed from traits and replaced with more generic effects. Personally, I do not like that. That is my personal preference. I'm stating my biases here, okay, on this sort of thing here, right? I don't like that. I personally prefer it to not go in that direction and instead go in the opposite direction. I think it's a fun mechanic and it should be interacting like that, right there as well. Though it is a real shame. I just want to very quickly check how strong this barrier is too. Let's go ahead and hop into PvP and we'll use that rune with one of our Weaver stances here and see how much barrier that exactly gives us. Oh no, Rune of the Weaver here. I'm predicting this to be very weak and not good. Let's find out if I'm right. 0. Well, they may have slightly undertuned that, I think. Let's go ahead and test something, because I suspect that the functionality hasn't actually changed. Let's go ahead and do a leap finisher. I think a leap finisher is actually going to sort us out quite nicely here. So let's go ahead and just equip our focus here. So you can put a flame wall down here and then swap over to earth, and we should be able to leap through that, and let's see if that gives us barrier. Nope, that doesn't do anything either. That is very unfortunate. It looks like that rune is just broken and doesn't do anything. That is highly unfortunate, so we don't actually know if that rune is good yet. Or not. I mean, the stats on it aren't great, to be honest. They're a bit weird. They're a bit of a weird distribution. For Rune of the Weaver. Bit of an odd one there, but it could be good potentially. Like, it has a lot of barrier. So, it's not that rune could be useless. The trouble is the stats aren't great on it. If it was like chill... If it was chill duration reduction, that would actually be a really solid rune. Because Weaver has a real tough time with chill, so that could be very interesting, but the rune just isn't great stat wise, so I think it's unlikely that we'll really see any play there. Rune of the Mirage, this is actually a typo, by the way, guys. This is Rune of the Zephyrite, so you can't use this in PvP. However, in World vs. World, this is hilarious, right? Because of the Rune of the Zephyrite also gives a 33% increased duration on super speed. As you can see here, this actually makes you insanely fast if you have you know, if you've got a really short cooldown elite skill like Jaunt on Mirage, or, which is probably why they put Mirage, because they were thinking about Mirage in the context of this change, or Mortar-Kit on Engineer, right? You can pop that off cooldown and generate like ridiculously amusing super speed uptime, right? But yeah, there you go. Not the most impactful rune changes ever, and I think that is a bit of a shame, actually, because I would love to see more runes added, more funky, wacky abilities added to runes that are really cool. You can kind of build craft around them. Same with sigils. So I like that they're changing runes, but I'd like to see more of it, and it's a real shame that they're removing a lot of combo interactions. I think that's a real shame, particularly on runes. Runes are about customizing your playstyle, customizing your build, so I do find that a little bit upsetting that they are literally removing that, and you'll see that as a theme throughout this entire patch, by the way, guys. Right, like it's not just It's not just this. It actually does extend into the actual balance of the game there as well. We've got a few kind of little cleanups here. So Daze and Stun, now you get, they're now a slightly different color, right? It's just, they just look a little bit different, right? So we can actually have a look at a stun here. We can go to Shocking Aura on our Weaver here, and it will show a stun. So it's just a slightly different color, I guess, on the tooltip there, which is, well, it is what it is, right? There you have it, guys, I guess. Boom. Update the language for traits that affect specific progression skills to be more generic. This change helps account for elite specializations that may have different versions of those skills. For example, traits that affect Mind Rack now say that they affect Shatter Skill 1. In other words, they're just making this a little bit more general, a bit more readable. Good change. Fair enough. Let's get on to the actual meat of the balance patch, guys. Here we go. It's Elementalist, guys. Let's take a look. In this balance iteration, we're looking at the Elementalist Grandmaster Fire traits. Persisting Flames is expected to push into more of a damage over time role, while Pyromancer's Puissance is getting a few changes focused towards group support and burst damage. With these changes, we are looking to also slightly reduce burning damage output in order to keep overall damage from going significantly higher in raid rotations. Persisting Flames. This trait no longer grants Fury when using a blast finisher with a fire combo field. See, guys, that combo field interaction, there it goes. Instead, this trait will now grant the Elementalist an additional 1% damage for 15 seconds for each target struck with a fire field. This effect stacks up to 10 times. So, let's go ahead and take a look at this ability now. And the way they've worded this is that it sounds like because they said it's more of a damage over time thing, right? While this one is for burst damage, right? They're saying that Persistent Flames is damage over time, and Pyromancer's Puissance is for burst. But that, if you think about that, right, you would expect that Persistent Flames would be like a Condi ability, right? Like a Condi thing, and they've made this trait boring, right? This is what I do object to. I hate to say it, guys. They've made this trait significantly less interesting. Now it's just like, oh, gives you 10% more damage, guys. It's another 10% damage modifier for Elementals. Are you excited by playing that? Let's be honest, like when you're taking this, you're going to have this basically up the entire time. Particularly on a multi-target situation, right? Where you just get 5%, right, per tick, right? You get that in 2 ticks. On a boss, you're going to get like 1% up very, very. You've got loads of fire fields. You're spamming those out on your Weaver all the time, right? Whatever build you're playing, you are generating a lot of fire fields. This trait is less interesting. It makes dungeon soloing a little bit scuffed as well. Like Fury for Weaver, for like pre-stacking is kind of gone now. It kind of sucks for Tempest as well, because now it's a little bit more annoying to give Fury. You're going to have to take the air trait line and maybe dump Arcane on like Boon Tempest or something like that, which is kind of annoying. So yeah, that sucks. If you're playing like the Condi Boon Tempest, you'll only be able to extend Fury and copy Fury, not actually generate Fury yourself, which is definitely really unfortunate for that build too. So yeah, I don't like this change from a design perspective, to be honest. I mean, you could argue that Boon Ellie was actually overtuned. I'd probably be there, right? I'd probably go in that direction and say is a little bit of, but yeah, you're really going to use Rebound for Fury, guys. Yeah, not a big fan of that. Makes the trait less interesting, but to be fair, they have made Pyromancer's Puissance a bit more interesting here as well. So, let's go ahead and take a look at this one. So, in addition to granting might for each ability used while in Fire Attunement, this trait will now trigger Flame Expulsion when leaving Fire Attunement or finishing a Fire Overload. So, I think this is definitely a job for our Tempest here. We go ahead and swap to that. There we go. So, Flame Expulsion. After a short delay, consume might on yourself and release a torrent of flame. Allies are granted might, while damage and burning is increased based on might consumed. Now, this is actually a pretty cool effect, right? This is actually a pretty cool effect, to be fair, right? However, this is a very weird thing. I think this is actually aimed more at PvP. In particular, actually, I think we're certainly going to see some usage out of this for Tempest, support Tempest in PvP, for sure, because this trait here, Blinding Ashes, is very good, to be honest. Like, a free blind every 8 seconds is great for mitigating damage, 100%, but you can actually you can generate a lot of might, actually, in a team fight, right, to buff your eyes. Now, the concern I have here is the radius. The radius is very, very low. It's only 240. So in PvP, it will be difficult to generate value out of this, to be honest. Like, you'll have to be really hugging your Necromancer or whoever you're supporting to actually generate this might onto them. Otherwise, you're not really going to be able to connect it. I'd like to see a radius increase on this to at least 360. Honestly, because you yourself lose the might, you could argue that this should be more like 480. Radius, even like a very high radius, I think for this is appropriate. This is a very, very small radius. The damage on it is not great either. 596 base and 1.2k maximum strike damage with 10 stacks of might removed. That isn't very good. Like, you get an extra 5 seconds of burning, so like 8 seconds of burning. But bear in mind, guys, I'm the build you see me on right now is full Viper. I've got condition duration here, so if you've got no condition duration, you're a bit shafted. I wonder if the burning increase is affected by condition duration. I actually suspect that it isn't. It looks like it's just like a flat 0.5 seconds. So it doesn't do great damage at all, to be honest. Now, I think the reason it doesn't have great damage is because of Weaver. I think they're a little bit worried about Weaver being able to spam this, and that is something for PvE, actually. I think this is almost like a change to make Weaver a little bit more interesting in PvE, too, because Weaver is now going to be quite a might stacker, right? If you're able to generate up a lot of might on your Weaver, and then spam that out, and then use Flame Expulsion, you'll be able to stack a huge amount of might, and get some extra little bits of cheeky damage here in there as well. However, if you sacrifice Persisting Flames, you are going to lose so much damage now. Like, look at this trait, guys. This trait is crazy if you think about this, right? It gives you a 10% modifier and all your fields last 2 seconds longer, right? I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, that is not great. Like, you're gonna really sack damage, and honestly, your might stacking potential it's not amazing. I mean, it's not Tempest or Druid on a Weaver, right? And this is where it's so confusing as well. In PvE, Tempest doesn't need more might, guys. It just doesn't. I mean, look at this. Look at Fire. Watch me use Fire and nothing else, guys. We're gonna use Fire Overload. I'm gonna unequip the trait. Oh, you don't have the trait, okay? Look at Fire Overload. If you fully channel Fire Overload and nothing else, no blasts, no Warhorn, right? You get 20 stacks of might on 10 targets, right? Tempest didn't need might stacking for PvE, really. Like, these two changes seem borderline random. They just kind of nerfed some stuff across the board there for Burn Weaver. Now, I'm really surprised to see this not balance split, because Burn Weaver was not great in PvP right now. It's kind of a meme build, but yeah, Searing Slash, burning duration of the skill's been reduced from 6 to 4 seconds. There you go, burning's going down there. Primordial Stance, 3 to 2 seconds. PvP and Wolves are staying the same because it was already hard nerfed. Bleeding is down there as well, but yeah, they're just nerfing down Condy Weaver because it does do an insanely high amount of DPS, and they're doing that because they don't want it to get out of hand when they nerf other stuff, which is fair enough. Weaver doesn't see play in a lot of speedruns, except for that Doom one done recently. However, that doesn't mean that it's not like very, very strong and needs to be kind of brought in line, right? Because it still does very, very high DPS, particularly on static fights that don't really move much, stuff like Mercer Overseer, right? And even does really well on stuff like Desmina and Doom, right? So it's not like a bad class. It's that it doesn't really provide any boons, so it doesn't really fit into a high-level speedrunning comp. However, does it fit into your your regular raids? Yes, it's a great class for regular raids. Big DPS, big value. Power Overwhelming, reduce the requisite might stack threshold from 10 to 8 in PvP. This gives you extra damage, right? When you have, you get extra power when you're above the might threshold, and doubled when you're over 5. So that's 8 stacks. So that does make it a lot easier to obtain that. You might, I mean, I don't really know what you're going to see with that. Like, it probably doesn't really matter that much. And we see a lot of cooldown reductions here as well to staff. Staff buffs, guys. Healing Rain, 40 to 35. Windborne Speed, 25 to 20, which is, that's pretty big, actually, because this is a really powerful ability. Windborne Speed removes all snares, like Immob, Chill, and Cripple. So that's a pretty significant cooldown reduction there as well. Could be very, very handy potentially in places like World versus World. Staff, Willets, I mean, Shockwave is cooldowns down there as well. Ice Spike cooldown down 2 in PvP. Lightning Surge cooldowns down from 10 to 6. And they reduce the damage a bit to kind of compensate for that. Misthorn cooldown up. Obsidian Flesh cooldown up. Hardy Conduit protection down from 3 to 2. and they fixed Glyph of Renewal. So all these changes, are you going to see Staff in PvP? No, probably not. You need the survivability of Dagger Focus and the great utility of Dagger Focus with the Immobilize, right? Some good mobility too on Staff. You can't really live without it, right? Like, they are nerfing Obsidian Flesh, that's absolutely true, but if you're on Staff, you are pretty damn easy to kill, and that will be a significant problem for you. However, in World versus World, this will certainly give you a little bit of extra value out of that Staff, but nothing really changes in both of those perspectives. PvP is going to stay essentially the same there. Now, I do want to address these three changes in particular. I think ArenaNet really need to be careful with over-nerfing support, right? I think Firebrand and Tempest are kind of suffering the same fate here, right? We're seeing boon durations go down. And Legendary Lore, guys, is 1 second of protection, right, on the Tome skill on Firebrand. And you have 5 pages every 75 seconds. Yeah. That's very bad. And if Tempest goes the same way, then you might kind of see support shoved out of the meta again. And they have to be really careful about that, in my opinion. I think the support dynamic makes PvP a lot more interesting, and they need to be careful about over-nerfing. Mistform and Obsidian Flesh was certainly increasing the invuln uptime of Elementalists, and it was pretty ridiculous. They have so many invulns, so many ways to survive. It definitely was a little bit overkill. So I think these changes are justified, particularly as you'll still have access to Soothing Disruption, whatever it is, right? Okay, the cantrip trait that will give you the Mistform and cooldown reduction there will take it back down to 60 seconds. So that is something, right? You know, that is something. It's probably okay. I think Tempest is still going to be very, very good. Glyph is still going to be a great ability. I think the Hardy Conduit nerf is actually a little bit harsh. I think it could be left at 3. I don't think that was really an issue. 3 seconds, it wasn't great anyway. 2 seconds is even worse, right? That is a big feels bad, man, right? Like, that hurts. Glyph of Renewal, they just basically fixed all the glyphs. So there was a bug with glyphs that meant that if you attunement swapped and after you got interrupted, you'd be immediately able to cast the glyph again. This was broken. I can't defend that. This is a very good change. This means that you can actually counterplay around Glyph, as opposed to them just like going, oh, you interrupted me. Well, too fucking bad, dude. I'm just going to use my other version of this skill. This is great. They actually did it to every Glyph, but in particular, it was aimed at Glyph of Renewal, right? Because it was a very, very abusive bug. And to be honest, this actually does, this is a bug fix, but it's actually a very significant nerf. It means it's going to be significantly harder in actually getting off this res. When you're going for it, you're going to actually have to play a lot more carefully to get interrupted. This is arguably this actually might be like the hardest nerf in a way. Like this was big value, like to be able to abuse this to get guaranteed reses off very, very easily. So that is a fairly hard hit there to Tempest. I think ArenaNet needs to keep an eye on it on the in their approach to balancing support classes, especially seeing as there's still quite a lot of damage about the place, right? Damage is still quite high, and a lot of these support classes are kind of starting to struggle with surviving and mitigating for themselves as it stands right now. Like, Firebrand is a very easy class to bully, and I think if Tempest has it a little bit better, right? Because it has protection uptime from the overloads a little bit, and it has some more active mitigation, right? With stuff like Shocking Aura to shove people away and some invulnerabilities that Firebrand doesn't have access to. But I think they've got to be careful with making sure it doesn't just get hard bullied in the same way that Firebrand does. So for Elementalist, some slightly weird changes here to the Fire Grandmaster traits. I think you will still see both of these traits used, right? Like, this is still going to be the best option for PvE, and it's going to do a lot of damage, right? They're slightly buffing Power Weaver there and slightly nerfing Condi Weaver, like with some of these changes here, Searing Slash and Primordial Stance. So taking down Condi Weaver, moving up Power Weaver a little bit there. Maybe a new support build for Tempest in PvP in World versus World, where it's kind of a fun trait as well. I always like the traits that make some kind of weird, funky interaction. So I have to say, you know, even though I think it's very, very confused in a way, especially in PvE. I think it's definitely a lot of fun for the other gamers there. It's good to have like a new gimmick to play around with. And I imagine this will introduce the experimentation on certain Weaver builds as well, like Might Stack Weaver for sure, because you'll be able to proc this very, very often, right? And the same is true with Tempest, right? You'll be able to stack even more Might, which is unnecessary, but oh well. There you go. It's time to move on to the Clown Fiesta class, guys. Let's go ahead and relog onto our Engineer. With this update, we revisited the shield and its trait, and found that while its function remains reasonable, it needed a few improvements to both its messaging and potency as a defensive tool. A couple main hand pistol skills also received enhancements to their condition duration, as they've been lagging behind a bit, even kit auto-attack options. So, let's leap into it then. So, Fragmentation Shot. Increased the bleed duration inflicted from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. Okay. Poison Dart Volley. Increased the poison duration from 7 to 9 in PvE only. This is a very strict buff to like con the Hollow, con the NG even on core potentially. Hip Shot. This skill now includes a piercing at tooltip, just a quick bug fix there. And, yeah, so, first of all, the pistol stuff, I think Con the NG should exist in PvE, right? So, these changes are in the right direction. Is it enough to really push it over the limit? Maybe. Probably not, though, to be honest. I think, power is kind of dominating the meta pretty hard right now. I think they could definitely have gone a little bit further. They probably should have upped the confusion on the third skill there, right? Like the, electric shot or whatever it is, right? They should have definitely upgraded the duration on that. Maybe added a few more, maybe like made the auto attack like, nah, honestly, I don't think NG auto attacks need to be good. You have kits, right, anyway. So you don't really need auto attacks. So I think it's okay, but yeah, just like a tiny buff like this, 7 to 9 seconds, not really good enough to make Con the NG push all the way through to the top, I think. But I think it definitely should exist. And here's the thing, right, with NG, right? I think core Con the NG could be a really fun thing. But to do that, they'd have to really kind of power creep core NG to beat Hollowsmith, right? Otherwise, Hollowsmith is just going to always kind of outgun it, right? Because of its class mechanic and how much hybrid damage NG already kind of brings to the table. NG always does quite a lot of power and coin damage, even when you're playing Condi, right? When you're playing Viper, you do a good amount of both damage types. So I think if they wanted to do that, they'd have to really power creep core, which would be kind of weird, right? You make every build do 50k DPS. Exactly. That's what we need to see. I'm pretty sure Fragmentation Shot is still worse than kit auto attacks, right? Like, there's no way this is better than kit auto attacks. It's so bad, right? Like this, that's the Quiver Pistol here. Right? Like this is not a good skill. It's 8 seconds of bleeding and 385 damage, but it's very slow, right? Like it's not very fast. It doesn't chain into anything right there. Like it's not good, right? Like, you're not really going to want to be auto-attacking in pistol, right? Like, you don't want to do that. And that's kind of the gameplay of NG. I don't think the auto-attack even needs to be good, right? The gameplay is like, oh, we're going in there. Oh, we're throwing our nades now. Oh my god, they were doing like a static shot, right? Then we're going like poison volley, right? Like, the entire gameplay of Con the NG is this really fast, dynamic action, right? You're not really auto-attacking very often, right, in the rotation. It's all about moving from kit to kit, right? You'll probably be running triple kit, right? You'll be bomb kit, flamethrower, and grenade kit, right? You'll be managing all of your cooldowns at the same time, right? Putting down your fire fields, right? You're going to be, dropping all these bombs, right? Like all this kind of crazy shit. So yeah, it's honestly very, very fun, active build to play. So I don't think they need to buff the auto attacks, but I think they could absolutely maybe improve Poison Dart Volley and Static Shot too, because I think confusion in PvE is the way to go. Like, dude, why not just make this like 8 stacks in PvE, right? I know that sounds pretty extreme, but fuck it, right? Like, you've got to compete with Mirage somehow, right? Like, why not just push it, right? We could make, we could, like, double the stacks of poison on Poison Dart Volley and make a static shot way better. That might be a little bit far, to be honest, because I think Con the NG isn't even that bad, actually. It's not even that bad in terms of DPS. But if they want to push pistol, then they could just go ham, right? Because Con the NG isn't really a build that sees a lot of play. So just go ham, right? And just really push the limit there. Because you're already going to have this very dynamic kit option anyway. That's the point of the gameplay, right? That's the point of NG, is to have this, stance dance, right, kit dance, whatever you want to call it, right, moving between all of these options, managing all of your cooldowns, right, going crazy. But yeah, that's what it comes down to. So I mean, I like what they're trying to do, but they just didn't really do that much, right? I mean, like 2-second increase. I don't know. Doesn't tell you, right? It's not good. So, Magnetic Shield. This skill now displays a ring to indicate magnetic inversion will affect. That's a really nice usability thing there as well. Presumably, enemies see that too, so people can be careful of that, right? But a great usability improvement. And they also increased the radius too of magnetic inversion. However, they did introduce a slight bug. If you use Shield 4 and then you activate it, it instead interrupts itself instead of going on cooldown, and you can use this every 4 seconds. And I imagine all of our PvP friends are really enjoying this right now, because for those who didn't know, by the way, guys, who are maybe unfamiliar with PvP, Engineer is one of the strongest classes in PvP right now. There is a devastating Grenadier build going about the place right now, and it uses Sword Shield, right? It uses a Sword Shield build. And of course, that CC was very, very strong, right? And now it's even stronger. So, well, this is of course bugged. This is of course unintentional, right? However, we actually are going to see a few other little adjustments to Engineer that do actually kind of make the cost a little bit better, to be honest, including that additional radius there. So, a bit of an accidental bug there, but great usability and extra visibility improvement there for players of the Engineer. And that's a big radius too as well. Like, I don't know why they increased that. That's a bit... I don't know why they did that, but you know what, guys? Look, the ArenaNet, they're big brain, okay? They know what's going on there. Of course, the block duration is going up on Shield 5 there as well, so now you block for a little bit longer. And I think this is actually kind of a good change, right? Now, hear me out, guys, because if we scroll down here a little bit, you'll see that they did actually reduce the damage on grenades here a little bit. I think they do need to go down a little bit more, right? The cooldown and the damage is going down on both Shrapnel Grenade and Grenade Barrage in PvP only, right? And that's good, very good indeed, right? However, probably needs a bit more than that, but this is good because what they're doing is they're saying, okay, you lose your damage, but you can have a little bit more survivability. I think that's a fair trade, right? You know, they're giving it a bit more radius so you can knock people back. And also, you get a little bit extra action on your block as well on Static Shield. And Static Shield is a great ability too, because it's not only a block, it also dazes people who attack you, right? Stuns people who attack you, right? It's it's like Static Aura too. So this is a very, very strong ability indeed here to have. And Shields also gets a bit of a change here too. This trait has been reworked. It now causes the player to activate a skill that grants protection on nearby allies when using a shield skill. This is, again, mostly like a readability thing. It's to make things a little bit more understandable. So it doesn't really change the functionality. It basically did that already, but now it's just very clear that's what it does. Before it said, like, using a shield skill, allies affected by your shield skills gain protection or something weird like that, which doesn't really make any sense because your shield skills only hit enemies, right? That's not how Engineer really worked. But now it's very clear that when you use a shield skill, it just gives protection. It procs this ability, and then boom, there you go. And you still get that cooldown reduction there as well. So yeah, it's a pretty good skill. It already was. It's just a little bit. It's a little bit of a usability, readability, understandability increase, so nothing particularly crazy there. Soothing Detonation. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. This trait has been reworked. It now heals in an area around the Engineer each time they use a tool belt skill instead of when using a blast finish with a fire combo field. I believe it was actually not a fire combo field. It was actually a blast finisher at all. It was any blast finisher, I believe, proc this. So that's not quite right there. Which again, I am sad to see that go, man. I really genuinely, I'm not doing this to be a dick, right, or to flame Arena or whatever. I am really sad and I am worried about the simplifying, the streamlining, the dumbing down, essentially, right, of this of the game by removing these interactions. A real shame to see traits that interact with combos be removed. I do not like the design of that. I'm just going to say it like that. So I'm a bit biased here. I do not like that. However, okay, so Koji is telling me it heals for 643 in Minstrel. So doesn't scale amazingly with healing power. However, it is probably going to make things a little bit more usable on Heal Scrapper, particularly in World versus World, right, where you might not be able to blast fields so easily all the time, right? So you'll get some value out of that, generating just a little bit, teeny tiny bit, a little bit of extra healing. However, honestly, like when it comes to the other trait lines, like I'm not even sure if you would take this now. Like it's not that much healing when using a tool, but you don't get to spam that often in World versus World. However, right, Mecha Legs is still going to be a really serious threat. This trait is very good, right? It reduces the slows, all the snares on you by 33%, and it gives you some baseline movement speed there as well. The turret trait, bit neglected. Honestly, if they push this trait, by the way, guys, look, no joke. If they actually push this to 10 targets, this would actually not be bad. Because I believe it's only 5 targets right now, if I'm not wrong. But if they actually made this 10 target, you could, that would maybe see play in raids. Like, no joke. The only problem is that the Vigor is on healing turret, and you probably wouldn't want to take, healing turret for Vigor when your med kit is really, really OP, right? Like, you'd obviously want to take med kit. So that would be kind of sad for your Vigor uptime. But other than that, if there was a 10 target, honestly not horrible. Like, no joke. Like turret NG would not be like an abomination in PvE, right? Open world PvE, like even casual raid PvE, right? Like, it will be fine. It will be a fun trait to have there. So, you know, maybe in the future. But as it stands right now, I imagine you'll still be taking mecha legs. Like, this trait is probably not really worth it. It does give you a bit of extra burst healing on your medkit F1 there. You know, if you use medkit, right, it will proc on your bandage self ability here when you use this. So that will give you a little bit of extra spike healing on that. But if it doesn't scale that well, according to Koji, it's like 600 with Minstrel. So with all your heal modifiers, that will push it to like 1k maybe. Not amazing of an ability there as well. And yeah, good combo traits to be kept, bad ones should be not. Well, I mean, they could always, you know, rework them to be better combo traits, right? Instead of just like deleting the interaction. And it's more like the general pattern we're seeing, right? They are moving away from combo interactions, which makes me a little bit sad. But yeah, there you go there for Soothing Detonation. System Shocker. This trait will now grant barrier to the engineer each time they use control effects on a foe, in addition to causing the function gyro to daze first. So we're going to go ahead and swap over to our Scrapper to take a look at this. So this is basically the first trait line here, stuff here. So disabling a foe grants you barrier. Your function gyro dazes foes when casts. So there you go. It's a decent amount of barrier, actually, to be fair. So if you hit 5 targets with this on Scrapper, you're generating, you know, like a Hammer 5 or something like that, or, you know, like the Gyro Daze. You're going to generate a fair bit of sustain there, right, with that barrier. So that's not a horrible interaction at all. Now, the downside, right, is that you'll have to give up a very, very potent trait here, gyroscopic acceleration. So, you're obviously not going to see that played in World vs. World or anything like that. It will be useless anyway, right? But gyroscopic acceleration is still there, so that will be a very, very strong competition there, indeed. And even in a PvP context, right, like this is a very, very good trait, right? A very good trait. The super speed uptime there on the gyros is very, very nice when you can actually proc that too. However, gaining all of that extra barrier might assist you in some of these sustained situations, but I think the super speed is still going to be better, so this trait probably doesn't really see play, I don't think, to be honest. Although the daze interrupt is nice, right, you can like interrupt people stomping or rezzing, right, like can be quite decent there as well, but to be honest, super speed is very, very good, like, I don't know, and Scrapper in general is fairly questionable, let's be honest here right now, for PvP anyway, but there you go. And they also, this minor trait got reworked here as well. It used to be a combo thing, right, I think. It used to be whenever you... Was this a combo thing, guys? I can't remember. This trait has been reworked. It will now grant super speed for 5 seconds to allies in a range of 240 around the engineer when using a heal skill. Using a healing tool belt skill now grants the engineer 7 seconds of super speed. Oh my god. Dude, you're fast as fuck with this. So, look. Look at this cooldown, man. Like, whoa! Oh my god. Boys. What... If I use my F1, I get... Oh, it does, yeah, because of course super speed doesn't... Honestly, they need to fix that, right? They're going to have to make super speed stack in duration, I think. Because right now... oh, wait, I mean, I guess it's because... Oh, no, they have done that, haven't they? Yeah, they have. Because they've made it apply in 2 packets. 12 for you, right? As in 7 plus 5, and 5 for allies. So they actually have... Yeah, well done, Arena. They actually accounted for it applying to both. So when you... Dude, when you pop your heal skill on Scrapper, right, you get 12 seconds of super speed. Oh, I'm fast as fuck. Let's go, boys. Oh, yeah. So that is actually quite strong. That is powerful. With Scrapper, you can have incredible speed here. You really can. You can have massive speed with Speed of Synergy. And now, of course, you aren't going to play Medkit in PvP, probably. You're probably going to end up playing, Healing Turret, right? Or maybe Medic Gyro for, like, the protection cleanse there as well in a PvP context. But even that, right? Like, you're going to generate so much super speed with that, right? Like, you can pop the Gyro for 5, then you can pop the F1 for another 7 seconds of super speed. Of course, Scrapper isn't amazing right now for PvP, but there has been some experimentation. And a few changes like this, with this massive kite potential, really could make the difference there. But some very spicy changes, in my opinion, to Scrapper there. Scrappers, rejoice. You guys are all, you're literally you guys are thieves now. You're fast as hell. Ultra speedy. Yeah. So, and a few other buffs to con the NG here. So we've got incendiary ammo. 50 to 40 seconds there as well. So that's actually, that's fairly significant too. This is a lot of damage. Incendiary ammo, guys, is a lot of damage. Your next 3 attacks do, buddy. I've got no condition duration right now, by the way, guys. Okay, so this is actually significant. That's fairly significant, right? Like, you know, 20% cooldown reduction is very juicy. And so you can obviously get way higher burn duration with incendiary powder, blah, 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 blah. So that's a decent DPS increase. Flame Blast, again, flamethrower ability, burn duration is going up. Right, so, you know, again, we are going to be seeing more damage there, particularly seeing as this is actually a really kind of key part in the damage of a con the NG. So again, damage going up there. Air Blast, burning from 2 seconds, 1 second for 5 seconds. It's an overall damage increase, right? But they're just making the intensity of the burst lower. Smoke Vent, reduce the cooldown from 20 seconds to 15 seconds. I believe this is yeah, it's just like an AoE blind. It doesn't not really it's a nice piece of utility to have, right? Of course, but there you go. Toss Elixir X, cooldown down from 120 to 90 seconds. Med Pack drop 60 to 50. Orbital Strike 40 to 20. So these 3 changes are an attempt to buff core NG, right? They're trying to make core NG a little bit better. And yeah, they're going to fail. That doesn't really help because there's, you know, Hollow is very good and core NG is not. But, you know, at least they're trying, right? And some of these abilities are actually quite powerful. Otherwise, like, no joke. If we go ahead and go to a core engineer build here, if you look at the medkit drop here, it removes one of these medkits. If you pick one of these medkits up, it actually removes all conditions, right, in a target area. Now, I'll tell you what, this might be a little bit crazy, but if those med packs gave you resistance too, dude, what if they gave you, like, resistance and stability, and core NG became like a support class in PvP, right? So it would be like medkit core NG or something like that. You know, maybe significantly buff the support. It would be like pistol. The trouble is, right, there's like some like real weird shit in with NG, right? Like it doesn't, it's going to struggle with like good abilities to use. I mean, you'd have to run some like really jank-ass shit, right? You'd end up running like toolkit, and your main hand weapon with pistol is kind of crap, right? You'd end up running some like real weird shit on the support engine. You'd have like Elixir S maybe, probably Elixir gun too, right? To cleanse people out, and then I don't know, maybe some like weird shit like rocket boots, like for a bit of mobility and sustain, right? So you don't just like flat die immediately, or like toolkit for like a block and stuff like that, right? But I can kind of see it, right? Like you can almost see something like this happening, right? Like some kind of you know, bizarre cleanse build there, you know, purity of purpose NG there. So yeah, I could maybe see them pushing that. If they like really hard buff supply drop, like reduce the cooldown of supply drop really, really hard, maybe make it 90 seconds or even 60 seconds. Then they also buff med pack drop, give it resistance, maybe even some stability. Yeah, I can 100% see them maybe getting something done there, right? All right, and then of course we see these grenade changes here. This is good. To us, I think it could do with a little bit more. They were maybe a little bit conservative with this. I could maybe push this down to 0.5 and then 0.35 here for Grenade Barrage. Grenades are still going to be very, very strong in PvP. Do not expect Grenadier Hollowsmith to be going anywhere. NGs, don't worry. You guys are in the clear. Let's hop over to our Guardian, because NG is donezo. It's Guardian time, boys. I'm sure there have been so many changes, right, guys? I bet loads of things happened, guys. I bet loads of things happened to Guardian, because Guardian, well, we saw it in the motor, guys. We saw it in the Master of the Arena, having a rough time in PvP right now. Bit of a punching bag, I'm afraid, in the player versus player meta. Let's see what lies in store for all of those who follow justice, who follow courage, who follow resolve. Let's leap into it here. The Missile Sentry is loading up. Prepare yourselves to look at some epic changes here for Guardian. Feel My Wrath is a very prominent skill for party support right now, but we feel it's overperforming a bit. You'd be right. We're reducing the party quickness a bit, but compensating the Guardian by increasing their personal quickness gain. We're also improving a few of the weaker utility skills to try and make them more appealing in all game modes. You know, I was actually really impressed by the way they did Feel My Wrath, because this patch was out, the notes were out last week. I actually like the change to Feel My Wrath. I think it is quite elegant, the way they've done this. Oh, actually, the way they've worded it too. Yeah, the duration of quickness you grant yourself is doubled. I like that. That's a cool way to word it too, as you can see here in the tooltip there of Feel My Wrath. So yeah, no complaints there for Feel My Wrath, and we'll leap to that change right away there. So what they've done here is they reduced the recharge a little bit from 35 to 30, but they basically reduced it. It used to be 5 seconds of quickness to everyone, but now it's 6 to the Guardian and 3 to nearby allies. So, yeah, it is going to be significantly nerfed, and you're going to need to dedicate some boon duration to that to really get a lot of value out of that. However, Guardian stacking will still be effective, particularly when you're using stuff like a Soul Beast, right, to stance share out the Moa stance to generate additional quickness uptime. And Firebrand itself is still very, very strong. But honestly, they've done a pretty good job here with balancing this, I think. I think this does actually alleviate the problem. It will be significantly harder to get away with stacking this, and will require proper execution to get true value out of Firma, chaining it with boon extension with Signets or with Moa stance on Soul Beast. So yeah, a good change there in my opinion. And they just reduced the damage here a little bit as well. Cripple is down from 3 to 2 seconds on Symbol of Vengeance. This is actually, like I said last week, it's a bit annoying for PvP here, actually, to be honest. It's going to make you a little bit less sticky. Your Guardian is already very, very immobile, has a tough time chasing people down, and that's going to be even worse now with only 3 seconds of 2 seconds or 3 seconds of cripple. But to be fair, it is deserved. Like, this skill is a bit overstacked, so I'm not really going to complain about that. Searing Spell. Reduce the damage dealt by the skill by 14%, and the burning is down from 3 to 2.5 seconds. This is not really as much of a nerf as you think. It does less damage, yes, but you don't really use this spell that much anyway. Like, most of your damage in your Tome 1 is coming from your other abilities, the 4th, 5th, and 2nd skill anyway. So, yeah, they're trimming the fat a little bit on Firebrand, and basically rewarding you for not playing badly, too. If you spam this, you're bad at the game. So, they're making it so you don't do that. Yeah. What could I say? What can I say? Chapter 2, Igniting Burst. Reduce the duration of burning inflicted from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. So again, they reduce the damage teens a bit there. Again, not the end of the world, but it does get reduced. Firebrand is overtuned in PvE. This is deserved. Honestly, I don't know why they're nerfing this in PvP as well. But I guess they like the number 5. There you go. It's not really necessary, but there you go. Desert Bloom reduces the base healing on the skill on 18% in PvE only. Increase the effective healing power on the skill by 15%, 0.96 to 1.1 coefficient in PvE only. This is kind of weird. It's a bit of an unusual thing there. Indeed. With this one. I mean, it makes sense because they want it, so you have to actually dedicate a little bit to healing power to actually be effective on the Firebrand build. But I kind of like the inherent hybridness of Firebrand, but seeing as Firebrand is so strong anyway, this is a fair nerf. It's probably going to be a buff, actually, to heal Firebrand too, so it works out. And you're going to see the same thing here on Shining River. Yeah, they actually reduced the healing coefficient in as well here. So Shining River got nerfed. But to be fair, the healing on Firebrand is so extreme that you aren't going to notice. And here's Feel My Wrath there as well. Zealous Blade fixed a bug that caused improper functionality with combo finishers. And to clarify on that, I believe it is a interaction on... wait, oh no, is it? Wait, is it? Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Oh, yeah. Zealous Blade. What it used to do, they changed it, right? It used to, like, heal you when whirling in a light, when doing a combo finish in a light field, I think. And I guess it was maybe still doing that, and then they removed it because it was still doing that or something like that. But I don't know, like, who knows? Hold the line. Cooldown reduced from 30 to 25. Retreat is now ammo with 5 seconds between activations and a 30-second count recharge. So those two shouts, Retreat probably won't see that much play. I can maybe see Retreat being played in PvE, because having this 600 range block with 2 charges, that's actually quite nice. to be honest. If you combine that with Rejuvenating Respite here, with your Guardian Heal, yeah, you can actually really block spam very hard. The trouble is you're never going to want to give up Rid of Persistence in PvE, because this trait is absolutely broken for sustained healing, so you're not going to run the cooldown reduction trait. But with Alacrity, right, like, you're going to be popping off with Retreat. You can maybe generate some good value out of Retreat there, right? So especially with that 2 charges, makes it a lot more usable. They could have maybe even pushed that to 3 charges, I think, maybe on this shout there. You could maybe have gone that far. I think it's still probably a little undertuned, a little on the weak side there as well. Hold the line now. Now, that is interesting. Okay, because this applies in PvP as well. Now, there is a core Guardian support build played by Chunsu and Sam X. M-I-M Sam. And it is actually quite good, right? Like, it kind of got superseded by Tempest a little bit, with Tempest getting nerfed, though, and with Core Guardian getting buffed. Yeah, this build, honestly, might end up not being completely horrible. I mean, it still is. It's a good build now, actually. It's really aids to do with it, especially in ranked. It's a very strong build. This core support Guardian, very tanky, good healing, great boons, nice protection uptime, good stability uptime, all that sort of thing. Right, and again, just increasing the uptime, it did run this trait. It runs this trait and the shout cooldown reduction. So you're going to actually have a lot of prod uptime using this. It will probably have the highest prod uptime out of any support build, right? With Mace 3 and Shield 4, right? And using your virtues, using Hold the Line, right? That's going to be good, right? Like, this will actually be pretty damn legit. So I think Sam is a happy boy when he sees that change. And I think we might see the Maiden Boom Boys experiment with a core Guardian support build, maybe even using something like Signet of Mercy, right? To almost like imitate the Tempest in a way, while maintaining fantastic boon uptime. And go bear in mind, the boon access of the core guard is great, right? You've got stability, you've got protection, right? You can generate might with and power. It has, like, arguably better boon access than Tempest, right? What it does lack, though, is it lacks stuff like Shocking Aura. It obviously lacks Tornado, and it's kind of difficult to fit the glyph in, right? Kind of hard to fit the Signet into the build, but maybe we can see some experimentation there, and we'll see those guys playing a build like that, you know, to be the support there in the team fight. We'll have to see, but I kind of like this. Like, it's a subtle change, but surprisingly effective, I think. That's a significant cooldown reduction, particularly when you throw in the trait into the mix there as well. So, Judge's Intervention and Litany of Wrath, cooldown down to 40 seconds on Judges, and Litany of Wrath is also, they're making it 25% to 33% healing, damage conversion on healing. So this is, what they're trying to do here is that they're trying to buff the core guard build in PvP, I think, particularly like the spike build, but also the duelist build too. That makes the duelist build better, which is honestly not, it's already kind of a scary build. Like the 1v1 build that Andreas plays and a few other guys play, it's scary already. I believe it can go toe-to-toe with basically anything in a 1v1 right off the bat. So this is, you know, it's a nice change for all of those Guardian types, I suppose, which is nice. Oh, dude, they nerfed Eternal Armor in Wolf as well. I didn't see that, actually. But yeah, no, it's a very, very powerful ability. Nice change for PvE too. Makes you even more unkillable for the duration. So there you go. I kind of like this, right? It's good to see they can't try and push these slightly underperforming builds. Like, you know, the Core Guard build, the Burst Core Guard build was a great beginner build for a lot of players. It was core, so you could play it in free to play. It was easy to play, easy to learn, easy to pick up, and quite effective. And then they nerfed it pretty damn hard with a lot of the Radiance trait line nerfs. So now they're trying to just creep that power level up a little bit there, particularly with the Mighty Blow and Whirling Wrath buffs too, right? Whirling Wrath, the spin damage is up, the projectile damage is down, so they want you to be able to spin on people and get a significantly higher damage, though, with 0.3 power coefficient per strike, right? They are reducing the projectile damage, and that actually kind of sucks. Like removing the projectile damage, this actually removes a lot of the burst. I guess ArenaNet doesn't like the gimmick of spinning inside someone's hitbox to, you know, do a lot more damage, so I get it where they're coming from there, but they could maybe have compensated a little bit more there on Whirling Wrath, because they significantly reduced the power coefficient and didn't really compensate for it here in the strike damage, so I think that's a little unfair there. But, you know, the 8-second cooldown on Mighty Blow, that's a pretty big cooldown there, particularly when you use the Glacial Blow trait line for that AoE chill. On Glacial Blow, they're on the Hammer Guardian, which is maybe what ArenaNet want you to go for there. Leap of Faith base healing is now 234 to 1,000. I mean, that's bad. That's actually pretty good, right? Because if you hit 5 targets with that, guys, on Leap of Faith, because it is actually a multi-target ability, right? If you hit multiple people with this will now heal you a lot. In PvP and World vs. World, the base healing is 1k now. So if you hit 5 targets, it's going to heal you for 5k. That's a lot, right? In addition to a blind and a good chunk of damage to on Leap of Faith. Like, that's pretty damn strong, to be perfectly honest with you, right? Like, every 12 seconds, like a 5k heal or 3k heal, nice. Good amount of sustain there, especially combined with Guardians. Already decent sustain with Renewed Focus, the F2, the F3, right? The Great Heal skill too. So that's bigger changes than you might think, right? Like, nice for Core Guard. Pure of Heart, reduce the healing coefficient from 0.3 to 0.2 in Wolf Sword only. Yeah, it kind of had that one coming. Healing in Wolf Sword because of Minstrel Gear, because of food, right? Healing modifiers is incredibly powerful, right? So I got no issues with that change. Eternal Armory, the burn duration down from 4 to 2.5 seconds in Wolf Sword only. You could even argue you should do that in PvP as well. Like, Burn Guard it's not like a good build, but it's quite an oppressive build in low ranks. So they could maybe nerf that, to be honest, without affecting high-level play. Wouldn't really be the end of the world, I think. Burn Guard is really fun, though, because I play a variant myself of that. The, Incinerator Firebrand. It's a lot of fun to play. But, yeah, it is quite obnoxious in low-rated play. It really kind of gets people good. Even in, like, Plat, right? Even, like, Plat 1, Plat 2. I still see people feed so hard into the Burn Guard, man. And they feed into me as well, right? On my Burn Guardian. So people never see it coming and they feed hard. So you could argue that could be nerfed as well. And those two gamers. Now, the one thing that I think is missing from these changes is Firebrand buffs in PvP. I think that Firebrand does need a little bit of help in surviving, and not the hybrid build. I think the hybrid build is difficult to argue, right? Look, I know you guys said that Firebrand is cancer, but I don't know. I think I'm not the current Firebrand. I think support Firebrand should deserve to exist. Hybrid Firebrand, I actually don't find to be too overpowered. It's more like the current meta doesn't really. It's a bit too slow, right? So maybe you could adjust the mobility, because I think one thing that really kind of screws over Guardian is you're very much locked in to you're very, very locked in to Rune of the Lynx. Because I think that's where Firebrand really struggles, is its mobility. And that's kind of okay to have that in a way. But no, because the thing is, it needs to only affect the hybrid build, right? It needs to only affect the because I think support Firebrand is kind of okay for it to be slow, right? It's fine because it can be more of like a heavy duty, a heavy duty, bruiser, like team fight Mimarino there as well. And but I don't know. I think the full support Firebrand needs to be way faster. I guess, yeah, you can use Staff for swiftness there to move all over the place, or maybe use Speed Rune to kite around on full support Firebrand. But I think full support Firebrand definitely needs a little bit of help. I think Legendary Lore could be rebuffed there as well. I'm gonna just kind of rework the functionality, because it just kind of sucks. Like, the tome cooldowns are so long, like, you just don't have the protection uptime to really survive. And maybe that's okay, but I think some stuff needs to be looked at, right? Like Mace Shield, you can kind of get away with it, I guess, and maybe with Hold the Line, maybe you take Hold the Line on Firebrand to give you additional protection and regeneration uptime. It can be almost like a Shout Guard here. Like, maybe you would end up running like Purer Voice in PvP with like Hold the Line, Stand Your Ground, and then Signet of Mercy or something like that. But you kind of need Contemplation in there as well, right? So maybe just ditch the Signet and go Contemplation. Then you've got I don't know, like Renewed Focus and shit like that. Like, maybe you can get away with that, like some kind of like support with Staff, but still think Firebrand is maybe a little bit undertuned in PvP, right? It kind of lacks a little bit of healing there. It's not like bad. It just needs a little bit, I think, to get back in, and because it's just a little bit too easy to kill. It's very easy to bully and just shut down immediately, right? That's what we saw in all these guys. You just focus it down in the tournament, right? In Master of the Arena, focus on that Firebrand, nuke it into oblivion. It can't survive, and then it's dead. And obviously, the other option is you can kind of reduce damage a little bit, right? Like across the board again. And I expect CMC will do that. So maybe we don't need to really buff Firebrand. I don't even think Firebrand's in a horrible spot. I play Firebrand. It's perfectly good. I've won daily ATs with it, right? It's fine in ranked, right? I've got a good win rate in ranked with Firebrand. So I don't think it's like horrible, but I think it's not biased to say it could use a little nudge to bring it back, particularly the full support variant. But yeah, there you go. For Guardian. So yeah, decent changes overall for Guardian. I like what they've done in PvE. I think they've done that quite elegantly. So impressed there, and just some other changes as well. I'd like to see some more changes to support Guard in PvE as well, but I won't bore you with the details here. I just think it needs a little bit more boon access, particularly to stuff like Vigor and Regeneration. It's not great at doing that, to be honest, in a PvE context, right? Like, you can do it with Mace, but it's like, it's not the longest duration. It runs out pretty quickly, and it compensates with having Aegis and Stabs. So maybe I'm just greedy, because I really like support farm. It's a lot of fun to play. In general, not horrible whatsoever. Let us move on with the balance notes. It is now time for the class that I think a lot of people are expecting to get reworked every single time. And, oh yeah, they'd be right. Mesmer, Chronomancer in particular, Oh, you guys have waited a long time for this one. At long last, the main change for Mesmers in this update is the restoration of self-shattering for Chronomancers. Illusionary Persona is back, my friends. Here it is. This change was originally made to emphasize the difference between Chronomancer shadow skills and core Mesmer shadow skills, but this ended up making them more difficult to use. Instead, we are focusing more on the differences in functionality between Chronomancer and core Mesmer shadow skills rather than the cost to activate them. Additionally, we are making a few small changes to Mirage skills to improve their usability. All right, let's go check this out, guys. So, Chronomancer shadow skills have been changed here, right? Okay, there we go. So, can now be activated without clones, and the shadow effect also occurs at the Mesmer's location. Additionally, the following balance changes have been made. Split second, this is our F1 skill here, the F1 on Chronomancer. Damage reduced by 33%. This skill no longer... But bear in mind, guys, they did that because you get a 4th hit now with a full shatter. So that doesn't actually do anything, right? Bear that in mind. You essentially get the same DPS because the damage is down by 33%, but you get another hit, right? You get 4 hits with a full shatter, right? So it's actually okay. This skill no longer deals bonus damage to slowed foes. Instead, it strikes twice with a 1-second delay between strikes. Note, shatter traits only affect the first strike. So, what that means is that stuff like Master of Fragmentation only affects the first one, and if you have Maim the Disillusioned, you'll only get Torment on the first one. This actually seems like almost like a weird technical limitation. It feels like it's just coded a bit weirdly, and they maybe couldn't make it proc on the second one. I don't know. It's basically proccing a different version of the skill. Yeah, they're just proccing a different version of the skill 1 second after, so we can see what that looks like, right? You can see, like, Wait, did that actually do anything? Well, I mean, I guess it's not particularly visible here, right? But, yeah. This actually does a massive amount of damage, guys. A huge... They've essentially doubled the damage of this skill. In PvE, at least, right? Like, obviously, in PvP, you can dodge it, right? You can dodge the second strike. But this doubles the damage of the F1. In PvE. That is crazy. That's going to generate so much DPS on Power Chrono, right? Like, Power Chrono is going to be popping off. Like, I expect to see some pretty spicy stuff there from this, right? Right? You can just spam that, do crazy damage there, and get massive critical strikes. So that's very nice for Power Chrono. And, you know, Power Chrono did kind of fall out of favor, so it's good to, you know, they're trying to readdress that a little bit there. It's still a good build, of course, but now it's even better. Weirdly enough, I believe, this is really weird now, right? Grant ages to nearby allies whenever you give yourself distortion or use Shadow Skill 4. Because they removed distortion completely from Continuum Split here, it has 1.5 second duration with no clones, 1.5 seconds is added per clone shattered. This skill no longer grants distortion, right? So, do we get the Aegis here? No, we don't, but only the allies get the Aegis. That's kind of weird, to be honest, right? Like, that is kind of unusual. Around 33% damage increase for Shadow F1, but tilted. Oh yeah, because the slow modifier is gone. So they didn't actually fully double the damage of split second because yeah, the slow modifier is gone, right? So yeah, it's a significant damage increase. However, yeah, you don't get that slow modifier anymore, so you don't need to you don't take extra damage there. And of course, Chrono can apply slow very easily. In PvE, you always have slow uptime there with delayed reactions. To combo that with danger time, right? You have time warps, right, going down, blah, 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 right? Like, you know, you do have that uptime there. But now you won't get that additional modifier. So yeah, it's not like a double damage increase. It is a significant damage up there with the F1 there for Power Chrono, and your Mind Rack is a big part of its damage. So that is still a really, really big thing and then needed. But still, the Phantasms are going to be the meat of the damage. So it's not like a mega DPS increase, but it is definitely a solid DPS increase indeed there. Rewinder. The cooldown per clone split has been reduced from 5 seconds to 3 seconds. The Mesmer now counts as a clone for this reduction. Increased recharge from 25 to 30. This is actually a surprising nerf to Condi Chrono. It's a Condi Chrono nerf here, right? Because, of course, you do get 4, so you get 12 seconds in reduction, but the cooldown's up to 30 seconds, and that's still less than 3 times 5. So yeah, they've nerfed Condi Chrono, which is kind of interesting, I guess. But you do get the 4th hit. So, you know, I guess, you know, in a way, it kind of evens out, I imagine, right? It probably evens out because instead of 3 hits before in Condi Chrono, now you're going to get 4 hits of damage, but the cooldown's longer, so you can't use it as often. So it's kind of, I don't know, honestly, someone would have to crunch the numbers on that. It's probably about the same. This is still a pretty cool mechanic, though, actually, guys, right? It's still a pretty spicy mechanic, I guess. Enjoyable times, my friends. Enjoyable. It doesn't even out. It's a dead build. Oh, unlucky, boys. Unfucking lucky, boys. But oh well. There you have it. Rewind it. Well, I guess the spam ability has gone down so significantly, right, that it certainly makes it, you know, maybe just not quite as good anymore. Unfortunate time, mans. Unfortunate. But oh well. There you go. It's a fun build. It's really cool to spam that F2 and get all those clones going crazy all the time. But you know, it was a bit broken, let's be honest here, boys, right? Like, being able to do all the boons and also deal out insane DPS while tanking was maybe a little bit on the crazy side there as well. Yes, very nice. Time sink. Reduce the day's duration per hit from 1 second to 0.5 second here. So, yeah, they just reduced the days there. I mean, dude, poor old Chrono getting a bit of a battering there. That actually, does that even, I'm really curious if that actually reduces the break bar damage. I actually don't think it does, because packets of less than 1 second still count as 100. So it makes it worse. No, I don't think it even makes it worse, actually, because of the way the paralyzation sigil will interact. I don't know, actually. Like, actually, no. It is a slight nerf, but pretty inconsequential, and that it makes it less annoying to deal with in PvP as well, and that's probably deserved, particularly considering that you're going to be able to really screw people over with split second now. Like, the scary thing here with split second is that this is going to obliterate you in PvP. Like, there is going to be like a mega burst build potentially available in a PvP context, actually, right? It is going to be very, very juicy. Very, very juicy indeed. Okay, and I think they've actually accomplished, most importantly here, guys, right, they have accomplished their design philosophy here, right? Continuum split is now, you know, this doesn't give distortion anymore, so the trade-off basically is that you don't get distort and your shatter skills are a little bit different. I think they've actually finally accomplished their design philosophy with Necromancer. This means that the Chrono class is not annoying to play, and all of these abilities are going to play out significantly differently to their core and Mirage counterparts. So I think they have done a good job here, right? I think they absolutely have. Right, they have indeed done a good jobarino here for Chronomancer there as well. Poor old Condi Chrono getting battered a little bit. But you know what? There are casualties in every war, boys. And losing Distort actually does suck a little bit on CS. You're not going to give, you're not going to have that raw invulnerability while you're in continuous, which is a little bit unfortunate. But I think this definitely increases the usability a lot, particularly seeing as you now have this trait here. Master of Fragmentation's functionality has changed too. It now gives you an extra second in continuum split, right? So your base duration is 2.5 seconds. So this is a really good beginner build here as well, if you take illusions and inspiration for Boon Chrono, because it will just give you that extra second within CS to use additional abilities to make your rotation just a little bit easier to play, right? And this is a really great build for beginners, right? The Protected Phantasms, Phantasmal Haste, Master of Fragmentation build. However, now with Illusionary Persona back, Restorative Illusions is now very good again in PvE. You'll be able to spam out your healing very effectively. The same is also true in PvP too. Although I'm expecting to see a lot of very aggressive Chronomancer builds actually spawned in PvP, trying to utilize the split second mega burst there as well is what is there. But we'll see about that. We shall see indeed. But yeah, good changes there design wise. I think the Chrono. I think a lot of Chronomans are going to be very, very happy about that indeed. And yeah, just got a few reworks here. All these changes basically account for the Illusionary Persona being added back. So you gain less alacrity when you shatter, less quickness when you shatter there as well. You know, because you get an extra shatter for free now, and you can actually just press it while running around with no clones. This is also a massive usability improvement in World vs. World, because before it's very hard to have a clone, right? Now, you can actually play Chrono and do something good. Does it make Chrono good in World vs. World? No, it doesn't. It doesn't really keep up with anything. You're still a Veil bot, maybe an Illusion of Life bot. But how does it actually make it usable or a little bit more playable? Yes, indeed it does. So yeah, good job though. Very, very nice indeed. So, There's also a few more little changes here as well. Phantasmal Swordsman. The Phantasm is now summoned on the target's location rather than the Mesmer's. This is, I don't know, I kind of like the leap forwards and the poke, and this makes it more of like an ambusher, right? Which is kind of cool, I guess. He kind of appears and starts slashing at you. And, I don't know, like, we'll have to see. I mean, I guess it makes it a little bit better, right? Like, it's going to just immediately be on the target instead of having to leap in, so it'll be a little bit harder to counterplay around, right? So we might see some play with sword in some of these competitive game modes here, because it'll be harder to dodge the Phantasmal Swords, which does do a lot of damage as well, guys. It does a hell of a lot of damage to these things if you actually get hit by that. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can use double grav well, right, for world versus world. You can go crazy, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it does make things a bit better there. But Chrono, still pretty good. But yeah, now you get a few things on Mirage. Mirage Retreat, this skill no longer breaks enemy targeting. Okay. I mean, I think this was kind of a cool gimmick that Mirage had, that it really felt like, oh shit, he's fading away, I can't see him. So, I don't know, like, I think that's a little unnecessary to me. I was like, it's not like Mirage is overpowered right now anyway, right? Chaos Vortex. Increase the number of targets from 5 to 10. Like, you know, this is actually surprisingly not bad, okay? Like, hear me out, guys, right? You would be surprised how degen this can maybe be. Now, in the current meta, this isn't very good, right? For world versus world, right? Like, but 10 target Fury Might and then triple Condi. If we end up in a really slow meta in world versus world, I can honestly see Staff Mirage not being horrible. Like, buff your allies and then do loads of Condis to your enemy constantly. The trouble is that you can only do that once because you've only got one dodge, which is a bit unfortunate. But I don't know, like, pair this with something like June Cloak, right? Okay, you know, dude, imagine, okay, guys, check this out. Imagine if June Cloak stole a boon and gave it to nearby allies, okay? It was like a support trait. So it's like feed from corruption, but whenever you do a dodge, you steal the boon and give it to allies, right? So double Staff Energy Sigil in World versus World, June Cloak in the enemy, steal the boons, give it to your friends. You've got like Signet of Inspiration on Mirage. You've got fucking Null Field as well going crazy. You've got Veil, you've got Illusion of Life, you've got Portal, right? You've got whatever. You've got Time Warp or some shit, or Mass Invis, or you're like mowering enemy commander, right? I don't know. Like, that is something, you know, well, you might want Jaunt just for mobility purposes there. But I don't know, like, there's actually maybe some potential there in the far-flung future for some kind of Mirage World versus World support hybrid build thing there as well. And actually for PvE, this is kind of disgusting, to be honest. Like, for open world PvE, that's kind of crazy, right? You can cleave down all the mobs really easily. And even better than that, in raids, you can now buff your allies with Staff, I guess. But yeah, don't play that build. It's probably not very good. Like, don't do that. And Crystal Sands, they made Crystal Sands a little bit better, which is good in PvE, right? There you go. Reduce the yard cost by 0.4, increase the projectile speed such that the mirror now forms 0.25 seconds faster. I mean, what an interesting change right there, guys. What a weird change that is. I mean, I don't really have much to say about that. It's a little bit better now. Amazing. So, overall, some pretty solid changes for Mesmer, in my opinion. Finally, Chronomancer's Revenge. Watch out for them in PvP with their big burst. RIP to Condi Chrono, poured rewinder, taken from us before its time. Maybe a little bit of an overcompensation there, but honestly, not horrible. I think Condi Chrono was honestly a little bit broken, so it probably had it coming there, to be frank, and so does Mirage. So does any confusion-abusing build. Get it out of here, right? But I just want to say this, guys, because I know a lot of Mesmers are going to be watching this video, and will see this. I want to make this very, very clear, guys. In raids, Chronomancer is actually very, very good, right? It turns out that Seize the Moment is an amazingly good trait, especially when you combine it with feedback and either mimic or a feedback here or well of precognition. It is an amazing defensive support, guys, okay? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk on why Mesmer isn't bad. A lot of people say that Renegade Firebrand outclasses it, but those people haven't read the tooltips. They might not even have eyes, and that's why I feel a little bit bad about roasting them. You know, it's not fun to make fun of the disabled guys, okay? You shouldn't be doing that, right? You really should not be doing that. But just at the end of this little analysis with the Mesmer stuff, Chronomancer is very, very good in a raid context. Not amazing in fractals, to be fair, but very, very playable, right? You know, very, very playable indeed. And Chrono really brings some unique stuff to the table. It has boon extension. It has this amazing res trait. It's the best tank in the game, right? It has loads of Aegis uptime, more than you think, and can also bring utility like Reflects and even more hardcore boon extension with Mimic. It can bring stability. But underrated ability, guys. Mantra of Concentration, but seriously, like mega underrated. Seize the Moment enables mega chrono degeneracy. Seriously, this trait is OP. Not only will it give you, if you're outside of a subject, you're in a subject on your own, this will give 10 target quickness for free, right? Which is amazing, obviously. It also allows you to don't take the quickness well, right? So you can now take Boon Rip, you can take Stability, you can take Condi Cleanse, you can take, I don't know, Reflect, you can take Aegis, right? You can take Blink if you want, so you can blink into a Doom Green. I don't know, like, you know, the sky's the limit, guys, really, you know, with this kind of stuff, right? A Portal, or whatever you want, and you can still give Alacrity to your subgroup and still generate fantastic uptimes on quickness for 10 people. And, of course, if you're with an Alacrity Rev, right, so you've got one Tank Chrono, one Alacrity Rev, you've got 2 free utility slots, right, because you don't need the Alacrity Well either. Right? So you just say, fuck it. I'm not taking any wells. We're just taking Signet, Seize the Moment, our basic Alacrity trait line, you know, our basic support chrono stuff here. And then we can go, dude, we can take Mimic and we can take Feedback. So we can res people and have Mega Boon extension there. We can have Stability and Mimic. We can have that and an extra res there as well with Feedback, right? Like, this is very good. Right, a very, very strong class, very strong and very versatile class, right? It's very flexible, and that's what's great about Chrono, is that it has this awesome flexibility and great utility to any group that it is in, right? It is an awesome class in raids. Don't let the naysayers say that it isn't, especially now with Illusionary Persona, the playability and usability is way back up high, right? So do not listen to people who do not know what the tooltips say, okay? Very, very important indeed. But also, Chronos in PvP. You guys, your time is now. See if you can make something out of this split second. It's possible. It's definitely a possibility there. I expect to see at least some experimentation from some of these Mesmer players. Are you guys ready? Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? It's time for Necromancer. Necro Gaming is about to arrive. The Necromancer traits for Signets and Wells have long occupied a difficult place in most builds, since they exist on the Grandmaster tier and typically have not provided enough power to warrant taking over other Grandmaster traits. We're moving the Signet trait, removing the Well trait, and replacing the Grandmaster slot with new, more broadly functioning traits that we feel will be more competitive with the other options at that tier. So, sounds like a good philosophy, and it's going to take us a while. Actually, no, it's some of the first changes, actually, so it's not going to take us a while to get there, but we'll just go over. We're gonna do the elephant in the room first, which is going to be the Shade skills. So, for Scourge, this is for Scourge. These have been changed back to triggering at both the Necromancer's location and their Shade locations with each use. Alright, this, look, I personally do not like the philosophy of this change at all. And yes, guys, they have reduced the target cap here. The target cap is, on Big Shade, it is 5 now in every game mode. And it is 3 for Little Shade, okay? First, I'm going to get the PvE stuff out of the way because we need to talk about PvP for a while, okay? And World versus World. This is actually a nerf in PvE, by the way, guys. It means that the skill floor is way lower, right? But the skill ceiling and the effectiveness ceiling is actually lower than it was before. The only way that this is better, being with the reduced target cap, is actually, it makes kiting a lot easier on stuff like Kadim 2 and also Kadim 1. But actually, this is a nerf. Okay, so these trades are a little bit bugged right now. Like, it should just, yeah, because it's casting around me in the shade. I think they probably intend to fix that, to be honest. Or at least they need to fix the targeting on it if they want to keep it as 10, right? To make it cast around the target as well, cast around the Necromancer there as well. And of course, the same thing as there. But yeah, Incidentally, guys, this actually lends some credibility to running Harbinger Shroud now, actually, on Heal Scourge, because now with this mega... Wait, why is my shade so giant, by the way? The fuck? That's another weird bug. This will allow us to get Mega Barrier with Harbinger Shroud very easily, and because this essentially makes Desert Empowerment not quite as good, you might be able to generate a lot of value here, guys. Actually, generate a lot of value. With this extra barrier with my giant shade. By the way, that is a visual glitch. It's not actually that big. But yeah, we can get giant barrier out of that now. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to World vs. World. So this is actually like a slight, it's like a slight skill cap nerf in PvE. So basically, good players get punished by this, bad players get rewarded. So it lowers the, it's actually particularly a nerf actually on DPS Scourge too, in a way, because... you know, you won't be able to, like, 5-target barrier a group while you're not there. And on Heal Scourge, you won't be able to barrier your entire group while you're not in the group, too. So it is actually, like, as I said, essentially a skill cap reduction and a slight nerf overall to DPS Scourge and also to Boon Scourge. But let's talk about World vs. World and PvP, guys, okay? In World vs. World... This just sucks. I mean, let's be honest here, boys. Like, this sucks. This essentially means that while you're melee pushing in with Scourge, you now have double target cap again. You're up to 10 targets there. You were only 5 before, because Sansevon only hits 5 people in World vs. World. And it did last patch as well. So you hit 5 people on your shade and no one on you. This means that you now get way more support on your shade because you can now basically spam with your skills and they'll also affect your allies. So you'll be cleansing people. You're going to be giving people barrier, right? All that sort of stuff, which... in my opinion, not great, okay? Last thing World vs. needed was Scourge buffs, especially combined with the Wells buffs too, because, guys, spoiler alert, the Well cooldown reduction on Vampiric Rituals, which got removed, that's baseline now, so all Wells have lower cooldowns. Now, to be fair, CMC has confirmed that those cooldowns will be going back up, right? That is actually confirmed, so great job there by CMC hotfixing that for World vs. World, but still... but yeah, we need a big shade rework. Stop dancing around it. Rework the trait. Make it support. Make Scourge great again. Let's go. That's all I've got to say about that. Honestly, probably make a whole video about Scourge at this rate, guys. It's got to get done at some point, right, lads? Right? It has to happen, right? Like, we'll have to do that. But anyway... right, let's move on a little bit to Bloodbath. You can ask me in the comment section about this if you want. There you go. Like, I'm a good YouTuber. All right, so Blood Bank. This new trait replaces Vampiric Rituals in the Blood Magic Grandmaster slot. It causes healing over your maximum health to be converted to barrier. Regenerations do not trigger this trait. And in compensation for this, by the way, guys, they actually buffed Heal Necro in PvE. Reduced recharge, 30 seconds, 25 seconds on Well of Blood, and the res trait is down to 30, so both great for Heal Necro and PvE. Well of Corruption, cooldown reduced from 40 to 32. Well of Darkness, reduced recharge from 35 to 25, and the Well is no longer unblockable and has a damaging strike associated with it. It now also inflicts 2 seconds of chill each pulse in addition to blindness. That is insane, by the way. So they kind of buffed all the Wells to compensate for not being able to trait for them anymore. Just gave it baseline for some fucking reason. I don't really know why they did that. These abilities were already really good, right? It's not like Well of Corruption was bad, right? Or Well of Suffering was bad. These are both meta in in World versus World, right? And you know, buffed a Power Reaper there with the Well of Suffering change, I guess. So there you have it, right? Well of Power is nice buff there as well. You know, you use that sometimes on Heal Necro, and sometimes you see it play in like Wells Reaper in PvP too. So nice little buff there. But honestly, not having the Wells trait is more of a nerf for Wells Reaper, to be honest, because you actually get a lot of sustain from that. It was a lot of lifesteal, particularly in team fight. So not actually, arguably not even a buff for like the full Wells build with like Ruin the Chronomancer and stuff, because you actually you lose a lot of sustain from having those Wells on you know, Well of Blood, Well of Power, you know, Well of Corruption. So not actually ideal there, you know, because you do lose that. But Well of Darkness, guys, oh my god. This is degen. Now, I don't think this is supposed to do damage, by the way, in PvP and World versus World, because there's some really weird stuff going on with the tooltip. If you link this in a build template, it actually shows as 6 damage for PvP and World versus World. So I'm pretty sure this is actually a bug. It's not supposed to hit hard. But right now, this hits hard to the point where you're probably going to run triple Well in World versus World right now because of just how much damage it really does. It does basically the same amount of damage as Well of Corruption and nearly as much as Well of Suffering, all while blinding and chilling AoE. And bear in mind, guys, let's talk about that build. Let's go to Linker's build here. that we were going to run here, you run Chilling Darkness, so you also get another AoE chill, because this actually has an internal cooldown per pulse, if that makes any sense, right? So if you get like an AoE blind, it chills everyone too. Right, so now you've got an AoE chill on Chilling Darkness, and that will pulse twice, right? You'll get 2 pulses out of this, right? So you get like mega chill, mega blind, mega AoE, mega AIDS, right? On this one. And it's hitting basically as hard as Well of Corruption, Well of Suffering. It is madness, guys. Yeah. It is a lot of damage, right? Combined with a blind and a chill, yeah, that's very good. Blind and chill are incredibly powerful counter-pressure conditions in PvP and world versus world. So until this gets addressed, I would certainly see some experimentation, some play there with Well of Darkness. It's very, very good. But back to Blood Bank, right? This might be my hot take, guys. This trait is overrated as fuck, in my opinion. Seriously, like, this is actually overrated because regen effects don't trigger it. So stuff like Parasitic Contagion doesn't work. Regen doesn't work. Soothing Mist doesn't work as well, probably, from Tempest, right? It is only direct healing. This trait is actually not good in PvP or world versus world, in my opinion. I don't think this is good. For Bunker, you probably want Unholy Martyr or Transfusion, right? For any kind of Necro build, the other two are good. Yeah, it works on lifesteal, right? But, I don't know, man. Like, thing is, right, so what are you going to do, guys? Okay, what are you going to do? You're going to play Blood Magic Scourge and get like 10k barrier from a Tempest washing the pain away. And then what are you going to do? You're like tickle him to death? Like, you don't do anything, right? Like, you're useless. With this trait, like, you're really you're going to play Core Necro with this? You're going to play Reaper with this? I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not seeing it, right? I'm really not seeing it. You could maybe run some like real troll shit and be really annoying. But to be honest, I don't think it really helps your survivability in the 1v1. Like, the only situation where you would want this is, like, trolling a 1vx. Maybe you can, like, troll a 2v2, but, like, trolling a 2v2 or 2v3 in ranked isn't really that good, to be honest, because your team will just lose the map while you're just trolling the 2v2. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's good. And in World versus World, this won't save you from just getting one shot, right? In a sustained meta, this could be good, right? Like, but then you have to give up Soul Reaping or Curses, right? And you just don't want to do that, right? You just don't want to. Like, you're not going to want to do that. So this trait is a meme. You can do, like, some troll tank stuff, right? Like, you can do some tank stuff in PvE, I guess, and be, like, unkillable. Because, look, in PvE, you are God with this. Like, if you've got a healer in raids, you're literally unkillable. So, if you want to roleplay as, like, a necro tank, I've got great news for you, right? Here you go. But outside of that, nah, it ain't good. Like I said, heal necro a bit buffed because the well's going down there. The trait and Well of Blood there, both those going down. So some small buffs. Kind of outrageous buffs in World of Sword, but it is being addressed. I think Well of Darkness is bugged. It shouldn't be doing damage as far as I'm aware. So there you go. So now we've got another spicy one, guys. Signet of the Locust. In addition to its previous effects, the active ability of this signet now also converts up to 2 boons on struck foes into additional healing. Now, this is actually a callback to the old signet trait. The old signet trait actually used to corrupt boons on all of your signet targets, which, by the way, was a much better version of that trait, but they had to kill it. Pepeans used to play it on Reaper, Signet Reaper, actually, Carrion Signet Reaper. Kind of a fun build back in HOT, actually. But now they're bringing that back a little bit because Signet of the Locust is now an AoE boon removal. And this will actually generate a lot of healing. I've got healing gear on, bear in mind, so it is scaled up a little bit here, so it's going to be a little bit lower this in a normal context here. But you still got your movement speed, and for every target that you hit with this, you're going to heal for, it's about 1.7k, I believe, with no healing power. Right, so you're going to heal for 1.7k or 1.5k, something like that, which is a lot, right? That's already a 7.5k heal, like a second heal skill almost. And it now removes 2 boons, great, right? Particularly if you're on, maybe if you're on Scourge with Feed from Corruption or something like that, and you can steal that. And then it also heals you for every boon removed, right? So you can remove 10 boons for another 7.5k healing. So you're talking 15k healing from one ability here. Right? Wow. incredible. That is actually that is powerful, right? That is a legitimately powerful ability, particularly when we look at our signet trait here as well. I believe. Well, actually, the signet trait doesn't really help it, does it? The signet trait just gives you more speed, right? It just makes you, yeah, you gotta go fast, right? You gotta go fast, boys. Gotta go fast here. Yeah, you get 33% movement. So that kind of sucks, right? But still, right? That ain't great. But still. Okay, is this actually good, though? Are you going to run Signet of the Locust in any kind of context? Because if you're a Necromancer in PvP, you want Worm, Spectral Walk, and then you want Fearing almost all the time. Those 3 utility skills are amazing. Is there a build where you would run Signet of the Locust? That's the question. And I am feeling very dubious about that, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't see where this fits in. It's nice boon removal. That's true. It is. And it gives you good sustain. It does. It does. But even in World versus World, do you really want that in GVG? It's an AoE double boon up. That's nice. But do you want that over another well or something like that? I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical. My prediction for this skill is that people experiment with it, kind of think it's not that great, and then probably don't use it. But it's not. I like what they're doing here. They're trying to make these abilities good and make them powerful, and I like that. So well done to ArenaNet for at least putting in the effort there. So fair play to them. Signet of Vampirism. The passive effect for this skill has been reworked. It now causes the Necromancer to steal a small amount of health from a nearby foe every second while in combat. Like, this is a really weird skill, in my opinion. Like, there's nothing else that really does this. Like, what is the... Let's have a look what the radius is. And currently, by the way, this is bugged. It doesn't actually work. Oh, and it is a very small radius, so you have to be really in close. Oh, that... To be honest, is this actually... Is this worse than the last variant? So what this used to do, right, is that when you got hit, it would steal life, right? But 180 is tiny. You have to be in melee to connect for this. And yet in PvE, you'll get actually really nice sustain on your Reaper build, for example. So this is probably meta for Power Reaper, and maybe even optimal for DPS on Scourge potentially too, because you just you don't even have to cast it, right? You don't have to cast it at all. You just put it there and it sustains you. Like, however, do you give up the barrier on DPS Scourge for this? No. No, you don't. Like, the heal skill is amazing on Scourge, so you wouldn't want to give that up. But if you're really min-maxing for damage on your Reaper, then yeah, you could definitely run this and just squeeze out a little bit more damage and a nice bit of group sustain too. Because look, guys, if you cast this on a target, right, they get a mark on them. That means that every single time they get hit, right, it will heal your allies for about 500, right? So, yeah, honestly, not horrible. Not horrible. And, yeah, the radius is too small for this to really be good, though. Like, in any context outside of PvE, to be honest. It's really going to struggle with any kind of usability whatsoever, I think, in those game modes. So, yeah, there you go. Signet of Suffering. This trait has been moved to the Master tier and replaces Dread. Dread and, for just reference, Dread and Signets of Suffering got swapped. The enhanced Signet effect now only activates when in Shroud. The enhanced effect for Signet of the Locust has changed to be 33% movement speed bonus. The enhanced effect for Signet of Vampirism has changed to increase the number of targets to 2 for the passive life siphon. Well, for a start, I don't think that's good enough for Signet of the Locust. I think they would need to do something like... They should... You know what? For Signet of the Locust, you know what they could do, guys? They could do some, like, really funky shit. Like, what if it pulsed a boon removal every 3 seconds while you're in Shroud? Or something like that. Right? And Signet of Vampirism, again, it's 2 targets, which is kind of spicy, but then you realize that the range sucks, right? And it's not going to do anything, really. So it kind of makes it worse. And you don't get the mega bonus outside of Shroud as well. I mean, you do still get that recharge bonus. So what you can do is you can go, boom, Locust, heal myself up, Shroud, recharge it, use it again. And that's where things might get interesting, right? But then again, you've got to run Spite, right? And no Necro build really runs Spite right now, guys. It's almost exclusively Blood and Soul Reaping for every single build, which, by the way, does point to a problem with Necromancer, right? Those two trait lines just feel borderline irreplaceable, right? That's huge, obviously, right? Like, you know, in particular, a really big culprit is Unholy Martyr, and I'm sure a lot of the Necro guys in chat will be able to verify that. But yeah, Unholy Martyr is a really, really big problem here for Necromancer. It is just so strong. Really, and curses, of course, yeah, like those two trait lines are just so good. You know, like curses, blood, and soul reaping are very, very attractive trait lines, right? It's very difficult to replace those in any kind of build. And to be honest, like buffing the signet trait isn't going to help. The one trait, though, that, you know what, dude? This trait is actually so good that people are going to meme with this, right? Dread. This trait has been moved to the Grandmaster slot previously occupied by Signets of Suffering, and it has been reworked. It now grants 5 seconds of quickness and 10 seconds of fury whenever the Necromancer applies fear to an enemy, with a 3-second internal cooldown. Additionally, it reduces the recharge of Shroud Skill 3 by 50% whenever an enemy is killed in PvE and PvP, and 5% in World vs. World. Honestly, you could maybe have made it like 25% in World vs. World, or like 20% in World vs. World. But yeah, fair enough. For a start, dude, you are a unstoppable juggernaut in open world PvE now. Holy shit, dude. You don't give a fuck. You're like perma stab, spamming your 3 skill. You've got mass fears, mass CC, perma, even more perma quickness than before, right? Because of your fears outside of Shroud will now proc this. Oh my god. Like, you are unstoppable. You've got Fury access now as well on power builds. Of course, you do have to give up Close to Death and Spiteful Spirit, but those aren't, you know, they're good for open world PvE, but honestly, dude, fuck it. Let's go Dread, boys. Let's go. Like, you are a monster with this build. Now, this is the one thing that could you actually convince someone to play Spite just to get Dread? Because this means that if you fear in Lich form, in PvP, for example, now you get quickness in Lich. You're now a quickness Lich. Now, we already saw how powerful this was, because one of the things that Reapers were doing in Master of the Arena is that you would take Reaper's Onslaught, right? And then immediately Lich, and you get like 1 or 2 quickness auto attacks with that quickness from Reaper's Onslaught, right? So quickness with Lich is very, very good. But the trouble is that the usual Reaper build, right, can't really fit Spite in, because you need that survivability. You go with Blood Magic here, and then you also go with Soul Reaping, right? You go with Soul Reaping and Blood Magic. I think actually Vital Pistol was played actually for additional healing uptime there. But yeah, like you end up running something like this for PvP Reaper, right? And that means that you don't really want to get that, because you need that lifesteal. Like, Reaper is very life force starved, right? And if you don't go with Unholy Martyr, you really suffer. You really struggle with all that stuff there. And so I'm just not sure if you can really fit this trait line in there. Especially seeing as Soul Reaping is really, really good too. Like, 'cause you need that extra life force. And Death Perception is just god tier. Like, an amazing trait. Like, honestly, very bloated, overpowered trait here. Think how many stats that is, guys. 33% crit is 600 precision. You're getting nearly 1,000 stats. Bear in mind, guys, that Berserker Amulet gives you less precision than this, right? Oh, no. Berserker gives you more, to be fair. Because Berserker gives you 900 precision, this gives you 600. So this gives you nearly like when you're in Shroud, guys, you nearly have another, like, stat, right? You're like running a 4-stat amulet, but on a 3-stat amulet, if you run Marauder, right? Or you run Berserker, right? Or Marauder, right? That this is just such a ridiculous stat increase that this trait is god tier. And maybe it should be toned down. I think you could argue Reaper is actually too strong. You definitely could. Right? You absolutely could. That's the thing with Necromancer. This is a fun trait, though. Open world, god tier. Not sure if you can really fit it into any PvP builds or World vs. World builds, but there will be some experimentation. That's for sure with the Omega quickness spikes. And, well, testing is now underway with this a bit. Yeah, Necro, little bit disappointed. I want to see a big shade rework, guys. Oh, yeah, look at this random Deathly Swarm. Look, seriously, ArenaNet, we were just like, the dartboard, Deathly Swarm. Yeah, is that what happened there? Like, you just, like, randomly threw that, and you was like, oh, yeah, we're just going to randomly nerf Deathly Swarm in PvE for absolutely no reason from 3 to 2. Like, no one even uses Dagger off. They're like, yep. time to nerf that. Let's go. Yeah, who knows? Who can possibly comprehend ArenaNet's methodology with deciding that nerf? I don't really know what that actually is. They're very, very unusual situation. But yeah, there you go. Some interesting stuff there for Necromancer. Not a big fan of the Scourge changes. Yeah, it's whatever. I want to see that big shade rework. Wells change. Nice. Heal Necro buffs, boys. Yeah. Okay, but also kind of heal Necro nerfs with the shade changes. But oh, well, that's okay. Interesting stuff there with the Signets. But personally, I don't think it's going to be good enough with some of this stuff. Like maybe Signet the Locust will see some niche play, maybe in some aspect of World versus World. But honestly, I'm pretty skeptical there. Maybe if Well of Darkness has its damage significantly reduced, then it has a place for it. But even then, I think it will struggle to compete with other options that the Necromancer has, even in that World versus World context. But we shall certainly see about that. Okay, we're all Dutch there, didn't I? But anyway, we'll see about that in the future. Okay, so that's the end of Necromancer. Let's go ahead and move on to Ranger. Damage build Soul Beasts have been unleashing numbers that are higher than they should be. That is an understatement, by the way. Like 70k burst damage. Nice. Good. 70k burst DPS, by the way. This is on a broad level rather than being tied to particular weapons or utility skills. As such, we're tapping the power and condition damage bonuses they gain while merged with deadly and ferocious pets for some reductions. In competitive game modes, Druids have seen significantly less use for their supportive abilities, so we're tuning those up to encourage bringing the affected traits and glyphs. Let's address the first thing here, guys. Okay? Let's address the first statement. We have tapped the power on the power and condition damage bonuses they gain while merged with deadly and ferocious pets. They reduced it by 50 ferocity and 50 condition damage. Or just, yeah, 50 power and 50 condition damage. This doesn't do anything, right? This is nothing. Right, guys, look at Soul Beast. Okay, let's take a look at this. 10% damage modifier, 10% damage modifier, extra lifesteal, Beast Mastery, 240 ferocity, 300 ferocity, because you are your pet, right? On Pet's Prowess. 10% damage modifier on Greatsword. Right, I don't think you get anything here, though, do you? You get extra stats from Pack Alpha, 150, like, all stats in Pack Alpha. And then we go to fucking this shit here, right? You get 250 ferocity while you have Fury with Vicious Quarry as well on top of that, right? You get 10% damage modifier on Hunter's Tactics and 10% crit chance. 10% critical strike chance on top of that too, right? Guys, I think the problem might be that Soul Beast has too many damage modifiers. And then you've got Sikkim. 40% damage modifier on Soul Beast, right? Signet also. 180 ferocity on Signet of the Wild. Guys, I think there might be some other issues around Soul Beast. There might not be 50 fucking power and 50 condi damage. I don't know. I felt like this is just a troll. Like, ArenaNet was just trolling with this. I mean, Soul Beast, I mean, like, yeah, the game is unplayable now, dude. Like, oof, very bad. Like, terrible, terrible build. My goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't know, like, Arena, like, just memed there. I don't even know what what was this? I don't understand. Like, this is a very unusual one. Whatever, right? Who cares? They nerfed it by, like, 3% damage, like 2%, 3% damage, like very low damage. It's fine, right? Soul Beast is fine. It is a bit broken, right? Like, no class should have that much burst. I believe it is literally over 70,000 burst DPS. It is ridiculous. Not that it's horrible, right? You know, to have a class that's super, super bursty, but particularly because bosses in raids have quite low HP in this game, bursting is always going to be insane, and that kind of, it makes everything else a little bit obsolete in speedruns. Additionally, on top of this, I think it's worth noting that Soul Beast also brings some, like, mega utility with One Wolf Pack for massive extra burst damage, especially if you take the Stance Share trait, but also that allows you to take Mower Stance, which kind of enables some really degenerate stuff It gives you 15 seconds of 66% boon duration, and that's 7.5 seconds on your allies, right? So you're giving mega boons, you're giving Furious Swiftness regen, but also your allies, if they've got quick, if they say want to use their quickness shout, right, on Guardian, now they've got 66% boon duration for absolutely nothing, right? And this is kind of the problem. I think we were talking to Left about this the other day, right? Is that even though they nerf Guardian quickness uptime, here you go, Moa stance here to save the day, right? And this is kind of the issue with Soul Beast, right, is that it has this massive burst damage, right? It can take a spirit even, and it can also massively support them. Now, I want to be clear here, guys. I really like this kind of synergy that rewards high team play, high synergy between players. I think that's fantastic, really good, but it might be a little bit too strong, just a little bit, right? Just a little bit, but I like the design on it, and I like the way it plays out. Like, the way speedruns actually play out right now, abusing all these kind of crazy synergies, is great. I love it, and I hope the players are having fun there too. But, you know, it's a little bit degen. And the thing is, they only did this in PvE, right? Like, in PvP, like, the Sikkim Soul Beast, even though it's not really a huge issue, it still does the same amount of damage, right? It says, look, it's on a broad level, but yeah, we're just going to do it in PvE only as well. I don't know, meme. They fixed a bug on Protect Me. And Viper's Nest. Increase the duration of poison inflicted from 4 to 8. Reduce the stacks per pulse from 3 to 2. So, what is this? This is actually a nerf, right? I guess. Because if you get less stacks... yeah, they'd have to increase the duration to 12 seconds if they wanted it to be the same. So this is actually a nerf to Viper's Nest. I believe this is actually this is a nerf to like a lot of the Condi Trapper builds in PvP. And to be honest, those builds are fairly obnoxious, to be honest, especially if players aren't ready for it and aren't used to that kind of thing. Like Druid can kind of like perma-remob you and get the snakes on you. So yeah, this is fair play. I think this is a good nerf here. Condi shouldn't be bursty, and this was very bursty, right? It would stack up like 9 poison on you very, very quickly, right? Which is certainly a little bit on the strong side, right? Oh, it's a slight buff to trap. Because you get 6 stacks. Oh, yeah, because you get... Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, God, oh, my God. I'm so sorry, guys. I am an absolute monkey. Bleh. I'm a bit... Look, I slept for like 4 hours. No excuses, though. Yeah, because you get... You get 6 stacks for 8 seconds each, which is going to generate you 48 seconds of poison, as opposed to 9 stacks for 4, so 36. So yeah, it is actually, this is actually a buff overall. In terms of overall damage, it's just that it's a lot slower, right? It's a lot slower, which is exactly how Condi should be, right? Like, that's exactly how it should be. Yeah, Condi should be slow, not bursty. So it's still going to be good in PvP, especially if your enemies stand directly in it, which they obviously shouldn't. And also better in PvE as well, right? You're going to get a lot more damage out of that, but it's going to take a little while to actually make it happen. So yeah, that's good. I like that. I like where that's going there. That is absolutely fine. Perfectly good change there for Viper's Nest. Just goes in the design philosophy with condition damage in general. So let's move on to the Druid stuff, because the Druid stuff is pretty damn spicy. So, Seed of Life. Increase the number of conditions cleansed from 2 to 3 in PvP and World of Sword. Now, bear in mind, guys, Seed of Life has a very short cooldown, right? A very short cooldown. You can basically spam this. You can just keep pressing it. It's got like a 2-second cooldown, right? So when you're in Celestial Avatar, you can mega cleanse your allies. Now, it's AoE little seed that comes up and heals people and removes 3 conditions in AoE. That is a significant buff to Druid's teamfight support there, especially with Lunar Impact now having a healing coefficient of 1 as well. So that's about 300 extra, maybe like 300 extra healing or whatever, right, on that Lunar Impact, which is already quite a powerful heal skill too. So this is actually very significant. Druid is a little bit underrated right now. It just can't really compete with the other builds, but it's not bad. That's what's important to notice here, guys. The Druid is not bad. Like I said, I did 3v3s with Curl and Helseth. He was Druid, I was Fireman, and Helseth was on Mirage, right? And we were actually getting some work done, man. Like, it is not bad. In the hands of a skilled player, a Druid can be very, very formidable. And the thing about Druid is that it is this build that can be very competent in these team fights, in these 2v2s and 3v3s, but also has the ability to duel too. So it has that versatility that can be great. And this certainly, that is pushing that to the extreme here, right? You're going to be able to have the same old annoying CC, annoying knockbacks, immobilizers, decent bit of damage there as well with Greatsword. and longbow, and you're also going to have a significant buff to your team fight support there with Seed of Life and Lunar Impact. So yeah, very, very nice changes there, I think, bringing Druid back in there. I think a lot of Ranger players, a lot of Druid fans will be happy about that indeed. Obviously, you know, nothing needs to be changed in PvE. Druid is still amazing in PvE. Vine Surge, Immobile, 1.5 to 2. I don't think Starve is super popular on Druid, because to be honest, it doesn't have the evade anymore. It doesn't really do any damage. It doesn't really heal that much. The projectile block is nice, but I don't think Staff will see play, even after the change. Grace of the Land, and increase the might side from 2 to 3 in PvP and Wolf Sword. This is actually significant. Like, I wonder if you would ever play this. Like, you might actually play that simply because of how strong buffing your team with might can be in PvP. Now, the duration isn't great, of course, but it will definitely give you a good spike there. And you can stack a lot of might with this. You'll be like 15, 20 might very easily, potentially AoE with Grace of the Land here, right? So this could actually be a good trait in PvP. The trouble is you do have to give up some other really strong options. For example, Curl runs Lingering Light a lot of the time, because that means when you go in Celestial Avatar, you get a 50% healing mod. Combined with Druid, there's like a Druid minor trait. Oh, actually, we can just show you here, right? So the options that you have here, you have Natural Mender, right? You get 20% heal modifier. Combine that with Lingering Light is insane. That means your Lunar, you just slam it down, and it will full heal people in PvP, which is absolutely fantastic. Grace of the Land, though, is going to be hard stacking a good chunk of might now, right? But I believe the duration is pretty chopped down here in PvP, but we'll just go ahead and check that out in a little bit there. It's only 6 seconds, and that is kind of the issue here. Like, you do get a lot of might from this, but it is not going to be a particularly long duration, right? Like, even if we kind of like spam our abilities pretty hard here, right? We're doing a bit of condition cleansing here, right? Oh, well, you know, actually, to be fair, you're getting into the 20s there, right? Like, you know, but as soon as you lose your Celestial Avatar 4, that might does drop down. But if you can actually channel that, and then maybe get a 5th skill off as well, yeah, you know, you're going to get a decent amount of might, a solid 25 might there as well, while also dealing out good CC and very, very strong healing. I think Druid has potential. Give it a few more changes, and it will actually start to get there and see some more play there as well. Obviously, a lot of the Ranger fans will continue to play in this state. Now, these glyphs, I think these glyphs are fairly questionable. They basically buff the healing on the glyph, the heal glyph, by about 20%, I want to say, in PvP and World versus World. The trouble is that you really want Condition Cleanse on a lot of your abilities here. You want stuff like Healing Spring to really carry you, or Troll Ungent to give you massive Condition Cleanse with the Survival trait to give you that really, really strong 1v1 potential. So I don't think the glyphs really have what it takes. It is a massive heal now, though, especially when you're in CA, guys. If you run this glyph, seriously, like, okay, let's think about this. So when you're in Celestial Avatar with Lingering Light now, okay, your allied healing, right, is going to be utterly outrageous, okay, because your allied healing is the same as your self-healing outside of CA, so you're going to have like a 70% heal modifier on a 7k, on like a 6.5k heal in PvP. So that means you're going to be healing, you will heal allies for over 10,000. Potentially, or around 10,000 AoE heal on the glyph. That is quite good, to be honest. That is a very strong heal, particularly seeing as it does have a fairly short cooldown, right? You won't run the trait because you're obviously going to want Celestial Shadow here, right? You're absolutely going to want that for Druid, for that kite ability, that escapability that Druids kind of need to get out of there, right? To abuse their Celestial Avatar to help. But, I mean, would you ever run the glyph for, like, a team fight support Druid? The trouble is, I think, because you've got Condition Cleanse with your trait here with Druidic Clarity, and also with your Seeds now as well. There's actually a version of reality where you might end up running, like, some kind of glyph build here. I think maybe with Glyph of Rejuvenation, because you already run Glyph of the Tides, right? I don't think you would run. Would you ever run Verdant Etching? I wonder, dude, do you actually run double glyph? That is very interesting, actually. I'm a little bit suspicious right now. I almost feel that we're going to see some glyph play. I've kind of sold myself on it now. The trouble is, like, oh man, like, this is great, right? Because, I thought it was going to be 3 condies, but no, it's only 1 condi, because it's the lesser version. If that was 3 condies removed on glyph use, maybe, right? But now I think it's going to be Healing Spring, because it gives you the regen, it gives you the pulsing condition cleanse, right? It's even a water field that you can blast or leap through it there as well. Okay, no. I've talked myself into it, and unfortunately, I've reasoned my way out of it. It's probably still going to be a Healing Spring. for almost all the time there on Druid, I believe there. But you might see some variants in the build there. Grace of the Land, maybe, but to be honest, I think Lingering Light or Ancient Seeds is still going to be with Druid, right? Because the Ancient Seeds gives you the aids 1v1, and Lingering Light more of a team fight, pure, true support build there, while still being a bit of an annoyance, a bit of a nuisance there for a lot of the enemy players. But yeah, some fun changes to Druid there. I like it. Protect Me. Cooldown's going up. Finally, right? And reduce the base barrier from 3.9k to 3.3k. To be honest, it might even deserve a little bit more than that. Maybe 45-second cooldown and like 2.5k barrier or something like that. Because this ability is insane. Like, this is an amazing stun break. Look how loaded this ability is, guys, right? It stun breaks. It gives protection. It gives barrier, right? And it's also an AoE stun break as well, guys. Like, this is an amazingly good ability, right? This is an insanely good ability. Oh, wait. Small Shade is bugged. Nice. Incredible. Amazing, my friends. But anyway, there you go. Good change there for Protect Me. And, ooh, nice. Ooh, reduce the base heal from 4.2k to 3.6k in PvP only. Reduce healing coefficient from 1.74 to 1.25 in PvP only. To be honest, I think the base maybe, well, maybe that's all right. Like, you could argue... You can maybe argue that the base should go down a little bit more than that, but Ranger isn't super strong right now, so I think this is an appropriate nerf. Like, the big thing about Spiritual Reprieve is that this is an AoE. This is an AoE heal, right? If we just scroll here, right? This heals people in an area, right? It heals all your eyes and gives them resistance. That's why that's so strong. But I think that is okay for Soul Beast to have a powerful AoE effect, though. So I think this is a good tone down, just kind of keeping it in line with other support options, particularly with the resistance uptime that this actually brings, right? Resistance is a very, very strong condition, you know, as you can see with Condi Rev, am I right, lads? But yeah, that should certainly bring it a little bit more in line with a lot of the rest of the game right now. So yeah, good change there. So overall, some really cool stuff for Ranger. I think ArenaNet's done a good job here in addressing Poison Burst there on some of the Troll Trapper builds there, trying to bring Druid back into the mix in PvE, which is a much loved class in my opinion, leaving it alone in PvE because, to be honest, it is fine in PvE. It's very strong in PvE, so we're completely okay there, and just ignoring it in World Versus World because Ranger doesn't belong there, guys. Okay, if you have a Ranger, delete it. Don't go into World Versus World, guys. Do not do it. Let's have a look to Revenant then. Here we are, guys. We are now moving on to Revenant here, guys. This update has some quality of life improvements aimed at Revenants. We added the ability to swap legends in midair, changed a couple skill requirements so they can't fail, and set the 7-shot skill to fire without needing ground targeting to allow a Revenant to fire attacks more cleanly at a target. Changes to the Revenant on the competitive sides are aimed at reducing the sustain available through reductions to damage mitigating abilities. Okay, sounds very reasonable to me. So, first off, a lot of bug fixes. Elevated Compassion, bug fix with fix an issue that caused the cooldown on this trait to overlap poorly with the timing of the effects from fast skills. Great, because I believe it's a 5-second cooldown as opposed to a 6. You know, like it has to be like a multiple of 3, right? For facets, right? For it to not overlap there, right? Versed in Stone. Fix an issue in which this trait would not work with the Revenant's F2 skill. So basically they fixed this was core rev. Like, normally Versed in Stone basically means what it does is your dwarf mode means that you take 50% less damage from conditions as well as from power damage, right? So it's like that. And now what they've done is they've made sure that that also works with your core Revenant F2 as well. So let's move on. Envoy of Exuberance. Fix an issue in which this skill could be blocked despite being listed as unblockable. Increase the projectile speed by 50%. Reduce projection duration from 3 to 2 seconds in PvP and Wolf Sword. Good change. It had that one coming. Also nice to fix the bugs. Because one of the things with Condi Rev is that had high protection uptime, high resistance uptime, and of course, it was just spamming that on constantly. So good to see that reduced there. Tone the protection down so it doesn't just be completely eternally unkillable. Nice. Soul Cleave Summit fixed a bug that caused it to continue to drain energy after it was cancelled. Very nice, dude. The worms have been buffed. Eventual Hammers, activate while in midair. Protective Saws, activate while in midair. Yeah, these are all good changes. Like, not being able to use skills while in midair is kind of weird, right? Like, especially if they're instant casts. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. So yeah, good changes there. Inspiring Reinforcement. Increase the height of this effect to prevent it from missing jumping players. Weird gimmick. Now fixed. Very nice. So now you can jump on your road and you can kind of hop, skip, and jump down, and you'll be A-okay. Ancient Echo. The skill is now available underwater. Oh, that's the biggest change there. Phase Traversal. This skill now performs a pathing check before activation. So this change is actually a bit of a troll, I think. Like, this is going to be annoying sometimes because you could use this ability to teleport towards an enemy no matter what, right? So sometimes you're going to get fucked by this because you won't be able to gain distance to someone who's on no port, right? If you just want to get closer. And this is the same for Death Strike too. However, sometimes this is going to save you, right? Because you're not going to get trolled by your port failing on people, right? Basically, your port can't fail, but now you can't use this to get close to people standing on no port. So there you go, right? I mean, it's kind of like it's a bit of a trade-off there. But overall, it's a bit of a wash, but I think this is actually overall kind of bad for power. I mean, it's kind of like a skill thing, right? If you're a skilled player, you know where your port will work most of the time, and you could also abuse it to gain ground on people, and now you can't do that. So it's probably not great for Rev overall. Legend swapping in mid-air, though, that's actually surprisingly big. There will be a few situations where you're trying to jump to kite, and you'll want a legend swap, but you can't because you're doing a kite spot. Now you'll be able to hop over to glint, right? And, do that nice and quickly, right? Like while you're, running away from the enemies. That's actually a subtle change, but a surprisingly big change too. So, 7-shot. This skill now requires a target and is no longer ground targeted. The arrows fired by the skill now fire at the selected target rather than at a set point. Increase casting time by 0.2 seconds. Arrows now fire straight at the target instead of following terrain, and additional arrows now fire sequentially in pairs rather than simultaneously. This is actually a buff, right? For its usability and the way it synergizes with stuff like Soul Cleave Summit for PvP and every game mode. However, it is still a little bit clunky to use. Like, we can get random users video up here again, I guess. But it's very weird. If you're not facing a target, it will interrupt itself instead of turning you around to fire at them, which is very, very unusual. If I hold my character like this, is it weird? Ah, yeah. Yeah, if you hold your camera, you'll actually interrupt yourself doing that. Yeah, it probably shouldn't do that. Ah, yeah. So it needs to, the problem is that it needs to immediately fail, right? If you can't do it, right? So what was causing that problem is that if I'm running away from the target and I'm left clicking, it will fail, right? So basically, if I'm forcing the camera to stay here using the mouse, right, and then I'm running away, the skill will say, okay, I'm going to interrupt myself instead of doing that. And that is a bit of an annoying functionality. However, it's not actually as bad as I thought it was. But yeah, it's the same with the fifth skill, but the fifth skill just won't let you even cast it. So actually, that's not as bad as I thought. Yeah, that's not actually horrible. But what you can see here is that this will make things a little bit better with Soul Cleave Summit. Yeah, so basically, free camera can kind of troll you with this. But, so check this out, guys, right? So if we do Soul Cleave here, and then we 7-shot that, you'll see that we get Soul Cleave a lot here, right? You get big Soul Cleave gaming on 7-shot, right? It will, because the arrows fire out slower, right? You'll get more procs on Soul Cleave Summit because the arrows kind of go at each other almost like one by one, right? So if we do this again, right? You can see that the arrows go like that, and that means you get more procs on Soul Cleave, which makes it better in PvP, but also in PvE as well. Makes things a little bit better. But yeah, it is, it does make it a lot more usable. 7-shot is significantly more usable now, I think. You got to watch out for the self-interrupt there with the free cam, but other than that, it makes it a lot more usable. I imagine in PvE in particular, this is a lot better, a lot less aids to play around. But also PvP as well. Demonic Resistance. Reduce the damage reduction from 20% to 10% in PvP and World versus World. So this is the resistance trait, right? We can go to PvP for this. So basically, when you have resistance, it gives you 10% damage reduction now. And it used to be 20%, which, by the way, was ridiculous. Guys, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so fucking proud of myself. I saw all these Condi revs playing, and they weren't running that trait. And I was like, dude, that trait is fucking broken. Why is no one running that? And you know what everyone did? Well, not because of me, obviously. They figured it out on their own, right? Because everyone was running this shit, right? Abyssal Chill. But I was like, dude, 20% damage reduction. You got nearly perma-resist. Why the hell are you not running this? And then people started running that, and of course, it was abused, I should say, to crush the Master of the Arena PvP tournament. Combined with Fiendish Tenacity, which is the next trait on the menu there, it was just so strong. And it still is, by the way, guys. Like, these two traits are still good. Will you still run Demonic Resistance and Fiendish Tenacity? I mean, Fiendish Tenacity is pretty much a done deal because of the resistance uptime you get from that and the extra sustain, particularly on the Sage build. Demonic Resistance, maybe a little bit less so. I think on the full Bonker Rev, you'll still play it because you just don't really do a lot of damage. Even with Abyssal Chill, you're still a bit of a noodle. So you'll probably still go with that, and you'll just kind of take the nerf, you'll just take the L and move on. But yeah, these are two great changes to Condi Rev to reduce the sustain there. They also do the same thing with Spirit Boon, Crystal Hibernation, and Facet of Chaos. Facet of Chaos is going to feel super awkward right now because all the proc durations are going down to 2 seconds now. But you'll be able to compensate for that with Spirit Boon. But it definitely does actually suck a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Like, that is, that's really unfortunate. That when you go into Glint, you get 2 seconds of protection now, and your Glint elite skill only pulses 2 seconds of prot. So it is a little bit awkward. You don't get permanent protection just by maintaining this. To be fair, that probably was a little bit strong, particularly combined with Demonic Draconic Echo. Now, you can still use Draconic Echo, and it's still a great trait, right? You're going to be giving a lot of Fury output there as well, and of course, pulsing protection after you use your elite skill there. So it's not bad. It's still good. It absolutely is. It is still a good ability and a good trait to use, but significantly weaker, actually. That's a massive nerf to Herald in general. That's every Herald build it gets nerfed there very, very hard, because Spirit Boon is a very, very powerful trait too. Crystal Hibernation's going down, Envoy of Exuberance, protection uptime is down, damage reduction on Condi Rev is down there as well. The one thing that didn't happen to Condi Rev, which I think probably should happen, is the resistance uptime. It didn't go down. I think, to be honest, I'd rather see higher sustain here. Like, Demonic Resistance go back to 20%, and Fiendish Tenacity healing go up, maybe even above where it was now, but just significantly reduce the resistance uptime. I think the problem with Rev wasn't necessarily the healing it was generating on itself, or even the protection. Well, protection was definitely a bit too strong, for sure, but I think the really, really big issue has always been the fact that it can just go immune to conditions, right? It can just be completely immune to, it slows any condition damage, right? Or, being immobilized, right? Being chilled, being weakened, right? That's just weird, right? That's just ridiculous that you can be immune to half of the damage in the game on one ability. That's probably shouldn't be that way, right? Not exactly great. But, at least they're doing something, and Condi Rev is taking a significant hit here with these abilities too. And, wow, Break Craze is back. Dude, they're nerfing the worms, dude. Oh, man. They're nerfing the worms hard, actually. Wow, that's a really hard nerf to the worms. Renegade pulsing healing on Break Craze's Bastion goes down to 321 from 369, and the healing coefficient is down to 0.1. Bear in mind, guys, that's significant because the worms run Mender on this build, right? So that is actually a really, really big nerf, to be fair there. And Soul Cleave Summit, also, healing coefficient is down significantly as well, down to 0.08. That's 2 massive nerfs to the French worms there on this Renegade build. And I think Renegade, as much as I really like seeing the French worms theorycraft, they're going to come up with something different. Don't you guys worry about that for the next month. They've got plans. They want a game. They want to go big there with some new strats there. But I think that is actually a very heavy blow to Renegade, maybe to the point where it kind of gets wrecked. It might get wrecked there a little bit because of that. That is a very significant nerf, those 2 changes there. Massively reducing the sustain on Condi Rev and on Renegade there as well. So yeah, that's a pretty hard hit. And Renegade is one of those classes that probably just shouldn't be good, right? I'm not really upset about Renegade not being good because it probably just shouldn't be. Renegade is one of those specs that doesn't really work in PvP as an idea, right? It's just a bit icky, isn't it, really, right? You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck? It shouldn't be good, is the way I would describe that. It shouldn't be good. Because that's just the nature of it, right? Like, it's a very obnoxious spec. It covers the entire points with aids and, like, chain dazes you. So, yeah. Although I love the worms, one of my favorite teams in PvP. I love them. They're great guys. Big fans of the worms. They did this. They can be proud of this. Their build is a little bit dead now, and they can be proud that they abused it to the point where it had to be nerfed. So, a round of applause and a moment of silence for the French worms meme strats with Renegade. But yeah, there you go. So for Rev, no complaints there. They've done a good job here. I wouldn't have gone about it this way with approaching the nerfs. And as Nico says, it is unfortunate that Power Rev kind of got caught in the crossfire here with the Glint nerfs here as well. Because, of course, you know, nerfing Glint affects Power Rev and Condi Rev. So I think it would have been a lot better approach to nerf the resistance uptime, because that specifically nerfs Condi Rev, right? Attack the corruption trait line instead of just Herald, right? Because Power Herald is not... I mean, Power Rev kind of... I mean, it kind of deserves it. It still does a shit ton of damage, but... I don't know, like, it struggles to fit in the current meta, right? Like, it's strong. And yes, to be honest, the Glint, the protection uptime is a bit broken. Like, the boon uptime from Glint is kind of busted, to be honest. Like, when a Herald, when a DPS spec is giving more protection than, like, a Firebrand or a Tempest, yeah, you might have a problem there, I suppose. But, I don't know. It's a big feels bad, man. Now it's time for the Steel Men. The Stealers, the thieves among us. Now, of course, these notes were kind of omitted, actually, in the previous patch. So we get to go and take a look at the truth of this stuff right now, guys. Let's go ahead and take a look. Let's see the full thief notes. With this update, we're looking into improved condition builds in PvE while reducing more egregious condition builds in PvP and Wolfsword. Oh, Condi Thief. Oh dear, your time has come. And, well, I can see some big changes at the bottom there, so I think their time really has come, actually. It really has. So, 1,000 needles, increased bleeding duration from 3 to 5 seconds for both the impact and the pulse. Presumably, they're trying to buff that for PvE, actually. Not really sure about that. Condi Thief hasn't really been good for a while. I think they're going to need to go a little bit harder there. Shadow Strike. Repeater availability duration has been reduced from 4 to 3 seconds in PvP and World vs. World. So, again, they don't touch it in PvE. But, yeah, this was really AIDS, right? Like, Condi Thief's burst damage, like, by spamming Repeater on you, not really a lot of fun to play against. But, honestly, this is the thing. Repeater wasn't the problem. And I'll tell you what was the problem. This was the bloody problem. Like, leeching venom, well, this and the confusion trait and, like, the venom share shit, right? But leeching venoms reduce life-stealing base damage from 320 to 160 and reduce the life-stealing power coefficient from 0.03 to 0.0165. Okay, great. Massive damage reduction on the lifestyle. And this was actually a really big problem. Because what would happen is you would take Shadow Arts and you could stealth, and then you'd get Spider Venom from being in stealth, and you'd have your Scale Venom from your actual Venom, and then you unload and you spike them with like 3 or 4k unmitigatable lifesteal damage, right? Combined with Shadow Siphoning as well, because this means your stealth attacks also siphon life. That's now been significantly reduced there from 312 to 218 there as well, and reduced the lifesteal and power coefficient from 0.1 to 0.07. Now, of course, this does actually affect both Thief builds, right? Because both Thief builds do run Shadow Arts, right? So you do end up suffering that. And this kind of does... this does kind of point towards a problem with the Shadow Arts trait line, right? But this is a good change, to be honest, right? This is a very good change. It's gonna tone down the burst a decent amount. Like, I would like to see some change to I think the confusion trait is like really aids, to be honest, right? Like, it does so much damage. And Condi Thief is still going to be really annoying to deal with, right? Because you can Venom Share, Bazzy Venom, you can Venom Share your Scale Venom to your Thieves Guild if you're running that as well. So it's not like Condi Thief is gone, right? It's still going to be annoying, but the life-stealing component, which is definitely a significant issue, has been removed. Like, you've got to bear in mind, guys, that Thief is going to be annoying and obnoxious always. Right? Like, Thief is just going to be obnoxious because it's the stealth class, right? And that's, a lot of that is down to Shadow Arts, right? Shadow Arts generating Omega stealth uptime is going to inherently make Thief incredibly annoying to play against. So I think Shadow Arts does need another look there. Reducing the stealth uptime in particular would be good. And then giving that back to Thief maybe in some increased damage output elsewhere, right? To trade off that survivability. Or you could give it back to Thief in other ways, right? Some of their utility skills could be adjusted a little bit to account for the lack of stealth. Or something like that, right? From Shadow Arts. But yeah, that's the real main issue. That's the main issue right there. But Thief will always be a bit annoying because it's the stealth class. Not necessarily imbalanced, though. I think Thief mains have kind of tricked people into thinking Thief is bad. Thief is not bad, guys. Thief is probably one of the strongest classes in PvP right now. Certainly in my top 3. My top 3 would probably be Hollow, Thief, and wait, what would be my third? And, well, Rev, Condi Rev, right? So Holy Thief and Condi Rev. Condi Rev might be starting to fall off a little bit, though, after these changes, to be fair. Maybe, you start to see some other moving into the top 3, but that'll probably still be around, in the kind of the same region there as well. Like, they're very, very good, indeed. So like, don't underestimate Thief. And they're even buffing Pistol Whip, dude. I didn't see that one coming. Like, the Flurry hit power coverage increased from 0.5 to 0.6. That is actually quite a lot. Like, I mean, Pistol doesn't really see play anymore. It's more DP, of course, Pistol Dagger, on the Condi build. But yeah, I mean, dude, like, I don't really want dude, please don't make Pistol Whip come back. Pistol Whip is very obnoxious to play against, right? Like, yeah, no, let's not bring back Pistol Whip, okay? Like, this build is fine as it is, okay? It's fine as it is. Let's play some nice SD Thief, maybe. Nice and fair, nice and straight up. We're okay. Then honestly, SD Thief also kind of aids, man. Honestly, Thief just in general aids. But it's fine. Good to see some, trying to buff it up a little bit, I guess. Now, we see Death Blossom. The number of targets the skill construct has been increased from 3 to 5. Wow, amazing. You can clear... This is actually a roleplay change, guys. This is a roleplay change for PvE. Because now you can be like a spinning death man, and you can hit 5 mobs in open world PvE. So this is actually an open world change, in my opinion. Very nice. Keen Observers. They tried to buff critical strikes. So they're trying to say, look, you guys can play other trait lines, except... except Shadow Arts, Daredevil, and Trickery. Come on, there are other ones out there, all right? That you could do some other ones, right? You could do that. Yeah, critical strikes exists. So Keen Observer, increased bonus critical chance from 5 to 10%, and Practice Tolerance is up to 15% crit conversion in PvP in World vs. World, and Ferocity from 250 to 300 in PvP in World vs. World. To be honest, if they want people to run Practice Tolerance, it probably needs to go up a... Wait, no, I mean, Practice Tolerance isn't even like the lifesteal trait, right? Like, this is just not... It just gives you more... It just converts, right? It's just a conversion trait, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it's good, right? Like, you get a lot of Ferocity out of that, but yeah, I thought it was, for some reason I thought it was Invigorating Precision, but yeah. I'm a monkey, but I don't know, it's just... These traits are not good, right? Like, Critical Strikes is a bit scuffed in PvE, right? And, this is a nice buff for PvE, actually. Like, filling out the precision cap nice and easily on your Thief, which is good. To be honest, they probably could have done the practice to unsplit the Practice Tolerance. This could have been PvE as well, I think. Because Thief is not exactly, like, the biggest DPS in the universe. With this, like, or whatever, so... They could have done that too. And the same thing with the Ferocity here as well. Like, no quarter is 250 to 300 Ferocity in PvP in World vs. World. Like, dude, I mean... Are people really going to run this? I mean, Thief... I guess they almost want you to run Staff Thief with something like this. Maybe like Staff Thief with Invigorating Precision, like almost like a Brawler build. But, so you get like mega crits and then mega heal off this. But the trouble is there's just a bit of like weird anti-synergy here, right? Like you can't run... I mean, like no quarter is good, but it's a lot of extra damage, but you can't really run this, right? I mean, it just doesn't really give you anything. Maybe on some, like, meme-tastic, like, meme-pocalypse, one-shot build on Deadeye or something like that is possible, but other than that, I mean, I don't think so, man. I ain't feeling it. I'm not feeling confident in this one, boys. It's, these are some weird changes here. I don't think you're going to see that really run in PvP on World vs. World. The other Thief trait lines are just simply way too damn strong for any kind of hope for that really getting run. But, yeah, there you go. That's it for Thief. So, yeah, I think a lot of Thieves are kind of crying out for some Shadow Arts, reworks, and changes. I think not even the Thieves themselves particularly enjoy how Thief is in certain aspects right now. To be honest, but it's good to see Condi Thief attacked, and I like the fact that they went after the lifesteal. I think a lot of people think this doesn't do anything. You will be surprised, believe me. I think the leeching venoms and shadow siphoning spike was actually a pretty significant part of how strong Condi Thief was, particularly when combined with like another ally, or like a one ally or two allies or thieves or something like that. This is a lot of damage that just got removed, right? Like, don't underestimate that. There's definitely maybe a little bit more work to do on Condi Thief, but Condi Thief can kind of like exist, right? Like the build, I mean, the build is really AIDS, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I'm on Firebrand, I don't have my cooldowns, I'm dead, right? And there's like nothing you can do about it. But that there's always that's just Thief, right? Here's the thing, right? Like, that's Power Thief 2, right? If I'm on my Firebrand, I'm pressured, right? And I haven't got my corners anymore. If a Power Thief jumps me, I'm dead, right? I'm arguably deader than if a Condi Thief attacked me, right? Like, that's just the class. You know what I mean? Right? It's not necessarily a Condi Thief thing, right? As such. So you might not really have to worry about it too much. Really. I'm not sure if you can really look at it like that, because that's the nature of Thief. Like, Thief is the wolf that smells the blood, right? The shark that comes for the wounded, crippled prey and, like, eliminates it and then devours it in front of its, like, its firstborn, its family, right? That is what Thief does. So it's always going to have that, like, oh, dude, like, I couldn't do anything there. That's kind of what Thief is designed to do in a way. That's the playstyle, is you seek out weak targets and boom, you eliminate them immediately. So, like, you can't really get away from that element of Thief, I think, at least to a certain extent. You're not really going to escape, literally, from that. So, yeah, there you go. Thief changes. I mean, they're trying to bring back Collie Thief in PvE. I mean, they didn't really do that. I mean, 4 months, by the way, but the effort is appreciated, I guess. Warrior boys, it is finally time. I'm sure there's a lot of Warrior fans in the chat who are just so excited. I bet you guys are just so hyped to see this change here. Oh, man. Oh, man. Warrior updates are focused around improvements to some of the lesser used offhand weapons, as well as some of the lesser used traits in PvE. Since these changes will see little use in competitive modes, we're being a little aggressive with the changes. But we'll be watching to see if they become overbearing. So, first up is some Spellbreaker stuff. Increase the damage dealt by the skill by 50%, 1 to 1.5 coefficient in PvE only. Raise the damage increase from 100% to 300% when the warrior removes a boon from a target in PvE only. Now, I'm pretty sure that this actually does a ridiculous amount of damage now. Now, I'm on a Nomad Warrior right now. Do I have a Berserker build? The fuck is this build? Seriously. I do have Berserker, I think. But I'm pretty sure this is like one of the hardest hitting builds in the entire game right now. Thanks to this change. And we can even try and test that. Someone give me might, guys. Someone give me might. I'm going to put down banners and we're going to like mega omega boon rip this shit. Okay, there we go. I'll do the banners. And someone can stack might on me. We're going fucking Spoolbruker here as well. Wait, can we get some more damage? Critical, yep, more critical strike damage. Very nice. We're going to take Loss Aversion because that trait got buffed as well. Alright, there we go. So, we use Charge, we Weapon Swap, we use the Signet, and whoa! 59,000 damage there, guys. Absolutely insane. 59,000 area of effect damage with break enchantments, man. Absolutely incredible there, my friends. Big DPS. So yeah, this is a pretty good skill for PvE right now. If you're fighting enemies with boons, this is going to hit very, very, very hard indeed. Very, very hard indeed. But yeah, there you go. That's just about it then, I guess, for that aspect of Warrior. Right, that was difficult, wasn't it, guys? Crikey. Right, that was a bit of a tricky one. Unrealistic? Yeah, realistic boons, guys, right? It is a little bit unrealistic, but you can definitely get like 30k at least, right? For open world stuff, right? You're going to see 30k crits for sure. Obviously, we're doing some memes there, right? It's a little bit of a meme, but you can definitely see 30k plus AoE open world crits. So amazing for open world Spellbreaker. And cleaving it down, going for Omega Cleave down there as well, with enemies with boons, which are fairly prevalent, to be fair, in a Path of Fire context, right? So, it's not too terrible. In my opinion, that it's just always a little silly demonstration of the might of the Spellbreaker. But, yeah, not terrible. Loss Aversion is also the same treatment here. The damage is up by 50% in PvE only. So, in other words, when you remove boons, you deal way more damage to them now. 0.9 to 1.35. So, yeah, big damage there. Indeed. So I like that. I've got no issue with that. I think that is a perfectly good change. Like buffing this stuff in PvE is fine. They can go really aggressive with it because it's it's PvE only. So balance split, the joys of it. Very, very nice indeed. Then we have Brave Stride. Here is in strength, of course. this trait here. Movement skills grant stability when used. This is actually a great trait. This is a really good trait. This trait has been really lame for ages, but now it is not. Now whenever you use a movement skill, so that's Great Sword 3, Sword 2 Leap, Rush, right? These abilities all presumably give you stability. Now, it's not actually showing up on the tooltip. Ooh, that's one thing to note here, actually, guys. It activates at the start, okay, of the ability, not the end. And that is already actually not great for the warrior, because this is mostly a PvP-oriented trait, right? It's, you know, it's a nice convenience in PvE, of course. But the thing is, would you even take the... It's nice, but it's 2 seconds in PvE, guys, right? That's the thing. It's 2 seconds in PvP, right? And that means that if you use at the start of, say, Whirlwind attack, it will kind of be nearly over by the time you finish, right? The Whirlwind, right? And, you know, it's good for Rush, though, right? And so you don't get interrupted there, or when you, like, leap or you know, or sword 2 around. So that is nice. But on some movement skills, it's not ideal, because your stability will kind of run out while you're spinning away, right, on your evasion. So it's a bit of a give and take situation there for Brave Stride, but I like it. It's a good rework there as well. I think it's going to struggle to compete with peak performance, because mending is like the meta heal on Warrior anyway, and it's amazing now with, by the way, buffed here, 5 conditions removed on Warrior, so it's incredibly powerful there for the heal skill there on Warrior. So it's gonna be difficult to get away with that. Oh yeah, that's true actually. You know, you can go for the you can use Brave Stride to not get interrupted on Eviscerate and stuff like that. And I guess, you know, that's potentially good on stuff like Decapitate on Berserker too. Because I believe that's all. Is that a move? I think Decapitate's like a leap meme too, right? So I think they both work there. So yeah, that does have some usability there, but like, you know, not having your heal skill have a 12-second fucking cooldown, 5 conti remove mega heal. Like, I don't know, dude. Like that is pretty spicy. Oh, it's not? Oh man, what the fuck? That's lame. Poor old Berserker, really getting the short end of the stick on all these game modes, right? In Dual Strike, increase quick restoration from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds to PvE only. Wow, really aggressive there. They could make that way better in PvE. Good change though, makes warrior soloing better. Counter Blow, reduce recharge from 10 seconds to 7 seconds in PvE only, and Crushing Blow now gives 10 Vuln, but it gives 3 stacks of might for 6 seconds when you hit, and if you hit someone who's CC'd, you get double the might and the Vuln. Much more interesting ability. Feels much more like a Path of Fire or HOT skill. Now, trouble is with Mace, though. Mace really struggles in PvP in particular, which is where you might see this change, might see this in play, because they, like, you know, the F1 skill doesn't do any damage anymore. So you're the big sad right there. You're the big sad indeed. So, poor old Mace Warrior, probably not going to get anything done there as well. Like, the only place where you might end up seeing that is, like, some kind of Mace Berserker, like either a Condi or just a power, like, Skull Grinder Berserker that tries to kill people, stacks up loads of vulnerability, and then, boom, is able to, like, nuke them down somehow from orbit. But, I don't know, Berserker, bit of a meme, dude, okay? Impale! Impale now applies a 1-second pulsing cripple in addition to Torment. Successfully using the Rip ability now grants 10 stacks of might for 5 seconds. That is actually pretty good. And especially things Riposte is getting buffed here as well. Riposte now has 8 stacks of bleeding instead of 4. That is a lot of damage, right? Especially if you can land your Impale and get your 10 stacks of might too. That is huge damage on Sword Offhand. The problem is that Torch kind of outclasses it a fair bit on Berserker if you wanted to play some kind of Condition Warrior build. And for Core Warrior, you probably don't really want to end up playing, you probably don't really want to play Condi. It's still more of like a power setup there. But, and, you know, look, if they keep buffing it, it might eventually be good, right? But, this is probably not the patch that Warriors were hoping for. Just a little guess there, guys, right? Like, I need to accept the tournament. But there we go. Yeah, at a guess, this is probably not exactly what Warriors were looking for. Sword offhand and Mace offhand buffs. You know what's weird is they didn't even, like, mega buff these in PvE, right? They just buffed them in PvP, I guess, or globally, right? Like, they tried to make it good. They were fairly aggressive with it. They were right? And to us, the Impale Cripple is really nice. Like, Pulsing Cripple, which kind of makes it very difficult to remove. Pretty big value, right? On the Impale there, especially when it's got the Torment too. Will make it very difficult to escape from the Warrior, but I think that might be a little bit too much speculation there. I'm not seeing Sword Offhand ending up being played. The only thing I could see is like some kind of like YOLO Berserker, like Mace Mainhand, Sword Offhand, full Condi, and it just gets you with the Impale, stacks 10 might, boom, berserks, and skull grinders you to death, right? And then its defensive capability is in riposte. Like, it uses riposte to somehow fend off some of your attacks with its relatively short cooldown there to stack loads of bleeding on you, right? There is some potential there for sure. Mending, mega buff, 5 Condis now removed on a 12-second cooldown when traded on Warrior. Yeah, they do not want Healing Signet coming back. They want you using Mending, guys. You better get used to that, Mr. Warrior, because you're going to be enjoying that for a very, very long time indeed. Savage Instinct. This trait is no longer split together and will use this longer 2-second cooldown duration rather for feel no pain in all gamers. This trait was pathetic. So what this trait does is it gives you 1 second of damage and vulnerability when you are in PvP in World vs. World, right? And also a stun break when you use Berserker. Which is obviously 1 second, not really helping anyone. So yeah, 2 seconds is good. To be honest, you could probably push to 3 very, very easily there, right? And it would still be probably appropriate there. It's kind of like that as well, right? You know, you're immune to physical damage, you've gone berserk, you're going crazy, you're rampaging around for a while. That would be kind of okay, right? But, yeah. There you have it. Outrage. Cooldown comes down. Yep, this is a good change for Berserker. And Berserker is one of those specs that I feel should be good. I feel like Berserker is a spec that could be good, but just isn't, right? They just need to keep buffing it and make sure it eventually reaches the power. I think Berserker is one you've got to be careful, though. It already does quite a lot of damage, right? And so they're going to be very conservative with making it deal damage, particularly on the Greatsword and the Axe, I imagine, because, like, these 2.0 power scalings on stuff like Decapitate and Arc Divider, it's going to get super, super scary, like, for mega, mega cleave all over the place, right? So it's, yeah, I don't know. And the stun break going down there is good. This is a very short second cooldown now, too, on Outrage, which is great. And that allows Berserker to, you know, not get locked down so easily, especially when you combine it with stuff like Headbutt, right? You can stun break out of your Headbutt way easier. Because the cooldown on Headbutt is like 18 seconds. So it was already weird off the bat, right? That, it was like this. It's very unusual that you have this 18-second stun break, an elite skill, and a stun break, and then you have Outrage, which is just a stun break. And Headbutt is also a 3-second CC. To be fair, it does CC you as well. But, right, it was very weird. So yeah, Outrage getting adjusted here is very, very good design, I think. Because Berserker is always this thing that has this kind of love-hate relationship with CC. It is a class that kind of CCs itself and then deals with that. So it's necessary for it to have shorter cooldown stun breaks, right? Like we saw a lot of stun break cooldown increases across the board with the Mega CMC patch, but I think Berserker is the one place where that doesn't need to be, well, you know, it doesn't need to be there, right? Decapitate, damage is up from 1.6 to 2 in PvP and World of Sword. This is 2.0 power scaling is like the top end damage, by the way, guys, for Guild Wars 2 now. So this is actually very, very heavy damage. However, will you survive long enough to actually execute it? And looking at all these changes, guys, right? They're buffing axe attacks there, reducing the cooldown on throw axe, reducing the, increasing the power coefficient on breaching strike for Spellbreaker. I think what they want for Berserker is they want, like, maybe Axe Shield and then, Greatsword, right? And you are just this monster in a team fight. And I like that design. I think if they keep pushing Berserker in that direction, where it's essentially like Power Reaper or Necro, right? It's like a team fight carry, right? And that needs a support. It needs a support. It needs Tempest, right? It needs a Firebrand or a Core Guardian to give it stability, to give it protection, to keep it alive, resustain it, give it might, right? And then unleash its fury. So, look, laugh all you want, guys. I think that ArenaNet have that plan. They agree with me, and honestly, I agree with them. So, let's see if they go ahead and do that, right? Let's see if they actually go for the push and can you do that. And you can see that emphasized here a little bit as well, Blood Reckoning, because they want you to like double spam Blood Reckoning there and make sure you use your burst twice in a row, those primal bursts twice in a row for like mega insane burst, right? And increasing the extension is actually really good. That's actually pretty legit. Like 5 seconds extra berserk after you use your heal skill, and that means you'll probably get at least another 1 or 2 burst skills in after that, because you get the instant cooldown refresh there with Blood Reckoning as well. That is definitely a really, really good time, I think. And yeah, if we keep, I think this is where you're going to see Berserker end up going. This very glass cannon team fight carry that is paired up with a support of some kind. So even though you might not see this patch, I think you will see it down the line when CMC's got his hands on it, right? Like, you know, you'll start to see synergies. People will start trying it and see if it works out well. I think we could have used some more changes to Spellbreaker. Spellbreaking kind of got shoved out of the 1v1 meta, but I think what ArenaNet actually wants to do is nerf the other side noders as opposed to buff Warrior, right? I think Warrior could definitely You know what Warrior needs? Warrior needs a new elite skill. Warrior needs to have a much better elite skill, like buff Signet of Rage or rework Signet of Rage, or just give it a new one, right? Like, or rework Rampage in some way. Because after Rampage damage kind of got bopped, Warrior fell off pretty damn hard. And with the advent of a lot of these very, very tanky classes like Ranger and Condi Rev, Warrior kind of fell behind, right? So, yeah, that is a big issue there. That is a big issue arena for Warrior. But, you know, certainly some promising changes there, I think, particularly towards Berserker. But, yeah, Spellbreaker getting a little nudge here with Breaching Strike doing a little bit more damage. But it certainly needs a little bit more to bring it back into the meta. But I think they want to go in the other direction and nerf the other classes, because they're buffing up the sustain of Warrior here with this massive condition. I mean, this is actually insane, guys. Like, Warrior has so much Condi cleanse right now, and it's kind of getting to the point where you might just thing is, you kind of need Shake It Off because it's a double stun break, which is really amazing for you, obviously, and you combine that with Frenzy and all sorts of other stuff there to make sure you don't get like perma CC'd forever. But this is now getting to the point where conditions are going to be very, very... They're gonna slip off you, right, with Mending, right? It's just going to be like water off a duck's back, boys, with Mending. It really, really is. So, yeah, not horrible changes there, like Throw Axe, Cyclone Axe, damage up, cooldown down. So, like I said, they want you to use Axe with Berserker, I think. But, you know, Axe is not a horrible weapon, and Throw Axe is a lot of damage if you can connect it. But it's going to be the same build for Spellbreaker. Maybe they're trying to push Berserker in that certain direction, but yeah. There you have it, guys. That is the changes for Warriors. Some big meme apocalypses there with break enchantments, and some perhaps slightly confusing changes for a lot of our Spellbreaker players about the place there as well, trying to push that Mace offhand and Sword offhand there as well, while also getting Berserker into the mix. So yeah, disappointing patch if you're a Spellbreaker main, but dude, if you like Berserker, dude, this is fucking fire, dude. Okay, this is absolute fire indeed. Yeah, it's some big, big damage, boys. As some final changes here, right at the end. And we'll probably clean these up after this match, actually, guys. But yeah, we can quickly go over these ones here. The Rune of the Dolyak, reduce the pulse base heal from 43 to 22, reduce pulse healing coefficient from 0.022 to 0.01. I don't know why they nerfed this, to be honest. I don't think it really deserved it. It wasn't like the rune was particularly good anyway, so rip Dolyak rune, I guess. Feels bad, man, and kind of sucks if you're a druid player in particular, because you could charge that up, right? You can charge your CA with that. No idea why they did that. Rune of the Mad King. The summon skill triggered by this rune when using an elite skill has been adjusted. Reduce the number of strikes from 17 to 5. Increase the strike power efficient from 0.12 to 0.384. The skill now activates every 0.8 seconds instead of every 0.25. So this basically keeps the damage essentially the same, like at a rough guess looking at those numbers. But it makes it do it in less hits, so it's less abusive with Burn, DH, and Renegade. So it's a good change, right? Like, it kind of does the same thing, but you can't really abuse it to do some really busted stuff anymore. So, you know what? I'll allow it, guys. Poor old Boots, he gets nerfed. The French Worms, they get nerfed as well. But to be fair, this room was pretty degen with Permeating Wrath, right? Like, if you're in a team fight and you summon the birds, Burn DH would incinerate the entire enemy team. And the same would happen with Renegade as well. With, of course, Soul Cleave Summit. So yeah, that one had it coming. But here we go. It's time to accept the queue. Here it is, guys. We got some real good stuff here. We got some changes to Siege and World vs. World. So, Warclaw, nerfed hard, Battle Maul, 1 target, and at 3 targets up to 10 in PvE. Battle Maul, again, same thing there, of course. Warclaw Mastery 4, so you don't get a Stomp anymore. It just does 20% bonus damage to down allies, which is absolutely worthless, by the way. Fatal Fangs. This achievement will now progress when striking down an enemy with a Superior instead of when finishing an enemy. This does not affect existing achievement pros. Okay, nice. There we go. But yeah, massive nerf there. Warclaw is terrible for combat now. It just makes you go faster. This is probably how it always should have been. To be honest, they should have just removed it from World. I mean, the Warclaw should never have existed, right? It makes World versus World undisputedly worse, right? There's no argument there. Like, the mount just takes you out of the gameplay. You don't have that, like, roving army feel so much anymore. I really dislike the mount, just as a concept. I really don't like it. But this just removes it from the combat entirely, which is nice, right? It's good that they do respect the World vs. World player base enough to do that. But it's good. And they even buff it in PvE because they know that nobody wants it in World vs. World. And you know what? Fair play to ArenaNet for acknowledging that, right? fair play to them. Now they just need to nerf the dodges, then away we go. Make it not have any evade frames, and then it's perfectly good. Very, very nice indeed. Dragon Banner. Dragon's Might. Which is what one of it, so the Dragon Town, which is like the little AoE thingy, has been nerfed to 0.75 power coefficient, and the initial strike on Dragon's Might is 0.66 to 0.5, and reduce the second strike power coefficient from 0.83 to 0.625. Reduce the third power strike coefficient from 1.0 to 0.75. So basically, pretty significant nerf across the board there on Dragon's Might here. And this is the auto attack here, right? It's kind of like almost like a Rev Hammer 2 meme. Right? And now it has been significantly nerfed, as it should be. Like, Dragon Banner is a very, very strong thing, but this kind of just falls in line. Like, all the player abilities got nerfed, and now Dragon Banner gets nerfed. To be honest, they should nerf it even more than that. Like, a lot of the siege stuff is still kind of really annoying to deal with. But, as you can see here, guys, look at that. AC damage down 20%. Power damage to players on Ballista is down by 20%. Damage to siege weapons is unchanged for skills 1 and 3. And then Cannon, power damage is down by 20%. Honestly, Cannon should get nerfed even more. Cannon is so OP, man, seriously. And honestly, I'd like to see this go to 33% on everything here. I think these are way too strong. Ballista is fine, really, right? It's not big, right? But anyway, yeah, great changes. It had it coming. Siege is really annoying. The defensive bunch is massive. And the main reason for this is that all sustain and all damage of players got nerfed by about 25-33%. And now that didn't get reflected in Siege. And now it has. And that's why I think you could go further. Because sustain went down a lot in all of these game modes. Maybe not so much in World Wars where you saw stuff like Scrapper and Tempest being and Firebrand being super, super OP. So I guess it's okay. But I'd like to see more. I think the Defender's advantage in Guild Wars 2 is still way too strong. It's absolutely insane. Like, you know, you can be a complete band of monkeys, right? And there's no way that, you know, an organized group will still have trouble capping some stuff, right? You'll die a lot, but you'll be able to hold on to it. So, I don't know. I think they could do a lot more there. But it's great to see a little bit of World versus World, right? Like, it really is fantastic, right? It really is fantastic indeed. And we do need to see some reward reworks there for World versus World, but this is a balance patch, right? This is not a reward update, right? Okay, this is not a reward update meme. Okay, so that's to be expected there. But yeah, great changes. Fair play. I believe CMC is actually directly responsible for this stuff. So, CMC, he is unchained, guys. He is indeed unchained. Fantastic stuff indeed there. And yeah, you got some gemstone stuff at the end. That actually concludes the entire balance patch review. That is the entire thing. All of it is now done. Bit of a weird one. Not the most impactful change. I don't really see a lot of stuff changing for PvP and PvE. It will be mostly the same. You'll probably have to accommodate your Guardians a little bit better with boon duration, maybe. So just a few little tweaks in PvE. The Scourge change, again, I'm not a big fan of design for that there. And I don't know, like, that's not great, like, the way they've gone about that. Like, Blood Bank, some of these new traits are a bit, like, eh. Removing the combo field interactions, once again, I don't like, right? I do not like that at all. I don't think it's good to remove that from the game. It's kind of important, but I don't know. It's a step, it's a step in the right, it's a shuffle in the right direction, right? Like, it's not a bad patch, but it's not a good patch. I was hoping for a lot more. I was hoping for a lot more of a swap up in PvE as well. Some like new builds, new traits, maybe even new runes, stuff like that. I was obviously maybe a little bit ambitious. I'd love to see more like reworks of significant traits like Sand Savant, instead of just doing like this weird stuff where they're just like playing with Scourge and removing its mechanic, adding it back, doing this, doing that, right? It's I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one, but nothing bad is going to come of this, really. Like, don't worry about Scourge, guys. It's not going to, like, end the universe and blow up the entire world, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. The game is, and, you know, reducing the sustain on Kondrev is good, and, you know, addressing some of the issues with Warrior slowly but surely is always going to be good for the game. And, like I said, when it comes to side noders, I think that ArenaNet want to nerf the current ones rather than buff Warrior, right? They want to bring stuff down, other classes down to Warrior's level rather than increase it. Some interesting stuff overall, like some of those LE changes are kind of fun, right? Like with that new fire trait, but, you know, it's, you know, these changes, you do have to ask the question why sometimes with some of the alterations that ArenaNet is making here. But overall, not, you know, I give the balance patch, like, it's like 4 out of 10, right? Or whatever, right? Like, it's a, I'm sorry, ArenaNet.